Hello everyone, I'm very glad that you listened to my story. Please give me a follow and like the video if you enjoyed it. Feel free to comment and provide feedback so I can improve the sound quality. Yes, I will now continue the unfinished story. Chapter 70 to 70 Terrifying Spiritual Power. 70 Terrifying Spiritual Power. Wu Wei knew what the spiritual energy value was. The so-called spiritual energy value was actually the amount of mana. No matter if it was a divine talisman master using spells or a divine talisman martial artist using martial techniques, they all required spirit energy. This was very common. However, it was very unusual for a level 1 divine talisman summoner like Wu Wei to have such a thing. To be exact, Wu Wei's spiritual energy was unusual. This seemed to be genuine spiritual power. Normally, spiritual power could only be condensed after level 4. Divine talisman masters before level 4 could use spiritual power, but in reality, it was the pre-version of spiritual power, spiritual energy, or pseudo-spiritual power. Wu Wei had originally thought that the spirit energy value was fake spirit energy like spirit chi, but after carefully examining it, he felt that it wasn't the case. It was very likely that it was the real spiritual power, which was very strange. If he had known that he and Huang were only at the first level, they shouldn't have had spiritual power. What's the situation? Why did Huang and I possess spiritual power in advance? Is it because he ate so many spirit talisman pills? Or is it because Huang's grade has been upgraded to superior? It's unlikely to be the spirit talisman pill. Even the superior grade spirit talisman pill doesn't have the effect of turning spiritual energy into spiritual power, right? As for the quality, superior grade wasn't rare, but he had never heard of anyone having spiritual power at level 1. Could it be because of the yellow turban iron bowl stance? Only then did Wu Wei feel that he was rather ignorant. That's why I said to read more. Knowledge is still very important. After that, Wu Wei put aside how spirit energy came about and tried out its effects. As soon as he experienced it, Wu Wei realized that his 30 points of spiritual energy seemed to be different from what he had imagined. It could not be used anywhere, and could only be used on the yellow turban iron bowl stance. 30 points of spiritual energy allowed him to activate the yellow turban iron bowl stance combat posture for 3 seconds. Almost every 10 points of spiritual energy could only last for 1 second. The time was short, but the effect was explosive. Under the effect of the yellow turban iron bowl stance, Wu Wei could last for about a minute. In this 1 minute, his strength increased by 3 points, and his defense was roughly equivalent to the defense of a goblin's light leather armor. In the state of spiritual power, this value was 5 times higher. Not to mention defense, just the strength buff alone increased from the original 3 points to 15 points. In other words, the moment it was activated, Wu Wei would be able to have a terrifying strength of 17.2 for 3 seconds. 1 point of strength was about 500 pounds of punching force, so 17.2 was about 8,600 pounds of punching force. Although it was only 3 seconds, Wu Wei's combat power would increase by a terrifying amount within these 3 seconds. It was the same for Huang. The only difference was that it could last for 30 seconds and its strength could be increased to 21.9. Every 10 points of spiritual energy could last 3 times longer than Wu Wei. Although their combat power was short, their combat power was definitely off the charts. In other words, apart from the increase in attributes, Huang and Wu Wei also had an additional trump card. When Wu Wei had tested out his trump card, he had also confirmed that the spirit energy that he and Huang had gathered this time was definitely related to the skill yellow turban iron bowl stance. This skill is definitely full of potential. I have to focus on this skill next. Wu Wei couldn't help but think of the black-robed man. Well, to be exact, he remembered the black-robed man's fine grade tree spirit pill and its medicinal dregs. If there was an unlimited supply of fine-grade tree spirit pill and medicinal dregs, Huang and his yellow turban iron bowl stance could reach 2 stars in half a month at most, and 3 stars would not even take 3 months. It's a pity that the little brother is in reality, and I can't go back at will now. I can't expect him to send it to me by himself, right? It seems like there's not much hope in upgrading the yellow turban iron bowl stance in a short time. Just as Wu Wei was thinking about the black-robed man, he didn't know that the black-robed man was currently shivering outside his dormitory. On Wu Wei's side, his Awang's quality had improved. Time passed quickly as he closed and opened his eyes. Thus, Wu Wei did not feel that time had passed. He didn't even know that it had been 5 to 6 hours since he returned. However, the black-robed lady was different. For the past 5 to 6 hours, she had been hiding in a small corner outside the dormitory. It was November, and the weather in Yuehua City was quite cold. Her clothes were relatively thin, so she shivered a little from the cold. However, even though she was shivering in the cold, she did not leave. This was not because she was stupid. On one hand, she had just returned to the inner city today. Other than Guan Qingyu's place, she didn't know where else she could settle down. Although she had money in her pocket, with her personality, she wouldn't dare to go to an unfamiliar store by herself. As for asking her to return to Guan Qingyu's side, but she was not willing to. On one hand, she had said that she would leave it to her, so she was too embarrassed to go back. On the other hand, she was also worried that if she went back like this, her aunt would have a bad impression of Wu Wei and think that Wu Wei had deliberately let her be shut out for a few hours. That was why she didn't leave even if she was shivering in the cold. He had been squatting there, holding his phone and waiting for Wu Wei's reply. In the past few hours, she had wanted to call Wu Wei several times, but she put down her phone at the last minute several times because she didn't have the courage to speak. But now, she had no choice but to make this call. Even if she wasn't mentally prepared to speak, she had to call Wu Wei. Her phone was running out of battery. Holding the phone and looking at the flashing red battery, the black-robed lady hesitated for a long time before finally pressing the button. The number you have dialed is currently busy. In the dormitory, Wu Wei's phone rang. Hello? Who are you? Wu Wei? I'm Zhongli, the assistant of Professor Hu Kaiyun from the Rune department. Professor Hu Kaiyun. Wu Wei immediately recalled. Wasn't this the teacher he had bought the lesson from today? Oh, are you going to arrange a class? No, I'm calling you because I have something to tell you. Teacher Hu Kaiyun has something to attend to at the last minute, so your class may be pushed back to half a month later. In half a month? Yes. During this period, please study by yourself. I will send you the relevant books later and give you a study plan. If there's anything you don't understand, you can call me from 10 to 12 every day when you're done. If I'm free, I'll give you an answer. Wu Wei was stunned. The other party seemed to be in a hurry and hung up the phone without waiting for his reply. At the same time, outside the dormitory, the black-robed lady's phone went completely dark. Well, it was out of battery. Looking at the darkened phone, the black-robed man's body froze. After a while, she picked up her phone, curled up her legs, and buried her head in her hands. Although she didn't make a sound, one could tell from her trembling shoulders that she seemed to be crying. Only God knew how much courage she had to use to guard Wu Wei's door. She didn't think too much about it when she came, but now that she had been hit repeatedly, she was still timid. She began to fear that Wu Wei had not noticed her, or that he would not let her stay, or even hate her. The more she thought about it, the more afraid she became. She was even thinking about whether she should sneak back. At this moment, a gust of wind blew over, and a panting voice sounded, "I'm sorry, I just saw my phone. Sorry to keep you waiting." The black-robed man was stunned. He raised his head and saw Wu Wei, who seemed to have run all the way here and was panting so hard that he couldn't stand straight. At this moment, it was as if thousands of flowers had bloomed, and all the gloominess was swept away. Although the black-robed person's face was still covered by the black robe, Wu Wei could feel that her face seemed to be blooming with a bright smile. At the same time, the black-robed man handed over a large bottle filled with fine-grade tree spirit pills with one hand and erected the sign with the other. Here you go. Chapter 71-71 Crocodile Swamp. 71 Crocodile Swamp. Yuehua City, Wu Wei's dormitory. Wu Wei was looking at the medicine bottle in front of him. This medicine bottle was given by the black-robed man, and it was filled with tree spirit pills. There were 20 in total. Each of the 20 tree spirit pills could be used for 12 hours and increase the proficiency of the yellow turban iron bull stance by 72 points. 20 of them would be 1440 proficiency points. It would not be a problem for a Huang to cultivate to 2-star. Wasn't the unlimited supply of medicinal pills that Wu Wei wanted now. However, looking at the pill in front of him, Wu Wei felt a slight headache. He didn't want to take other people's things for free, but he couldn't afford to pay. An exquisite grade spirit talisman pill costs 5 contribution points. The value of the tree essence pill is probably about the same as the spirit talisman pill. This means that this bottle costs at least 100 contribution points. Now, Wu Wei didn't even have a single contribution point, let alone 100. Sigh, I still have to make money. There was still no news from Li Kai's about the co-tenant, and now that he had an extra 100 contribution points debt, Wu Wei was really under a lot of pressure. As for the black-robed man, well, Wu Wei did let him stay in his dormitory. However, Wu Wei had never thought of asking the black-robed man to pay rent. What a joke. His friend had come to stay temporarily, and he had even brought items worth hundreds of contribution points with him. Yet, Wu Wei had come up to him and asked for rent. Did he have any shame? Well, he wasn't that shameless. Thus, Wu Wei pondered for a moment. I was planning to familiarize myself with Yuehua City's environment and take the courses to enter the inner city before going out to kill monsters. But now, it seems like I have to go out first. On one hand, it was a huge financial pressure. On the other hand, Wang's recent breakthrough brought Wu Wei a little sense of security. Wu Wei finally made a decision. Thus, the next morning, the black-robed man had just woken up from her sleep. She had walked out of her room with anticipation and apprehension. She didn't see Wu Wei. Instead, she saw Da Bai, who had been waiting for her. Hello, Master had something to do this morning and left. This is a note for you. Little Black, I have something to do today and went out. I didn't send you the divine symbol because I was afraid it would disturb your rest. You can stay here for the next few days. There's a resting and recording room on the first floor underground, you can go and relax. There's a pill refining room on the second floor underground, you can refine pills there. Oh right, make more tree spirit pill for me, I need this stuff. That's it, see you tonight. Looking at the note left behind by Wu Wei, the black-robed woman who was initially disappointed that Wu Wei had left the house immediately perked up. She read Wu Wei's note carefully several times. She stopped at Little Black and see you tonight. After a while, she carefully put away the note and walked to the second floor of the basement. She was going to refine medicine for Wu Wei. At Wu Wei's side, he had really woken up early today. Early in the morning, he came to logistics department too. When he came here yesterday, he saw that not only could he exchange contribution points here, but he could also accept missions. He wanted to see if there were any suitable missions for him. There were quite a lot of tasks in the logistics department, but Wu Wei didn't see many that were suitable for him. The main force of Yuehua City's students should be level 2 or 3. Most of the quests on it could only be completed at the second or third stage. After Wu Wei selected the search function, he finally found a few level 1 missions. And they were all relatively simple missions. It was either herb gathering or some low-level material gathering missions. Wu Wei took a look and saw 2 of the missions. One was spirit grass gathering mission and the other was black goat horn gathering mission. Mission, spirit grass gathering mission. Mission description: there are wild Reiki herbs growing in the Black Mountain Forest 15 miles east of Yuehua City. Collecting spirit grass can be exchanged for contribution points. Contribution exchange: 30 normal level 1 to 11 spirit grass for 1 contribution point. Quality level 1 to 11 spirit grass, 3 stalks for 1 contribution point. Spirit grass ranging from fine grade 1 to 11 could be exchanged for 1 to 10 contribution points. Superior grade spirit grass, discuss face to face. Mission, Black Goat Horn Collection Mission. Quest description: Black Goat's Horn has good medicinal properties and spiritual energy conductivity. It can be used to make medicine, create divine soldier talismans, and collect contribution points. Good quality black goat horns, 4 for 1 contribution point. Exquisite quality black goat horn, 1 horn, 2 contribution points. Boss grade black goat's horn, face-to-face discussion. After silently jotting down these 2 missions, Wu Wei left Logistics Department 2 and took out a map. Following the instructions on the map, he headed towards the Black Forest. Along the way, Wu Wei was still a little excited and full of anticipation. He had even set a small goal for himself. He would not return unless he got 1 or 200 contribution points. When Wu Wei arrived at the Montenegro forest, he was dumbfounded. So many people. The Montenegro forest in front of him was filled with a sea of people. The reason for this situation was very simple. The inner court entrance examination of the Yuehua Academy was held once a week, and every time, about 6 teams would pass the examination. In other words, there would be about 20 to 30 people entering the inner court every week. Most students who entered the inner court would need at least 1 or 2 years to reach stage 2. In other words, the number of Tier 1 students in Yuehua Academy was maintained at around 1 to 2,000. Meanwhile, Wu Wei had chosen the Tier 1 quest with the highest reward. Naturally, there were more people coming. Wu Wei saw that there were at least a few hundred people. When Wu Wei saw this, he knew that they could not enter the Montenegro forest. With such a long queue, it would probably take 1 to 2 hours just to get in. The worst thing was that with so many students going in together, there probably wouldn't be any spirit herbs or black goat horns. Forget it, I'll give up on these 2 missions for now. I'll find a place where no one else will go. Wu Wei said as he opened the map in his hand. With this, Wu Wei really found a suitable place: Crocodile Swamp. There should be fewer people in this place than in the Montenegro forest. On one hand, the Crocodile Swamp had a higher challenge level than the Black Mountain Forest. It could probably reach level 15. On the other hand, it was because of the terrain. This kind of swamp terrain was not popular with Divine Talisman Masters, especially low-level Divine Talisman Masters. In other maps, the rune monsters were the most dangerous. However, in this place, the terrain was sometimes more dangerous than the monsters. Even if there was a divine rune magician who specialized in the earth element in the team, he might not be able to take care of the entire team in such a terrain. Thus, Wu Wei was sure that there were not many people in this place. Then I'll go to this place. Wu Wei made up his mind and immediately led the team to the Crocodile Swamp. Chapter 72 to 72 Collection. 72 Collection. 20 miles east of Yuehua City, Crocodile Swamp. After coming here, Wu Wei realized that it was similar to what he had expected. This place was completely different from the Montenegro forest. There was a sea of people on the other side, but Wu Wei could not see a single person. Wu Wei was very satisfied with this. After that, Wu Wei released Little Yellow. After Ah Huan came out, it obediently stayed by Wu Wei's side to protect him, while the little fairy was as mischievous as ever. Especially after seeing the swamp in front of him, the little guy went crazy like a husky who had seen a muddy field. It chirped and flapped its little wings to fly to the swamp not far away. With a splash sound, it directly burrowed into the mud pit. However, just as she got in, she came out crying in less than 3 seconds. Before Wu Wei could figure out what was going on, there was a plop in the next second. A huge figure sprang out from the spot where the little guy had just crawled in, opening its bloody mouth and biting at him. At the critical moment, the little guy cried and used all his strength to escape. Only then did he avoid the big mouth. Just a little more and this little fellow would have been destroyed. After escaping with great difficulty, the little fellow cried even more violently. Wiping away his tears, he flew to Wu Wei and hugged Wu Wei's face, crying his heart out, not caring that he was covered in mud and dirt. As for Wu Wei's side, well, although the little guy was crying miserably, Wu Wei couldn't help but laugh out loud. When Wu Wei laughed, the little fellow cried even harder. However, Wu Wei did not coax her. He already knew this little fellow's character. If you ignore her when she cries, she'll be fine after crying for a while. That's it, I'll cry the whole night. At this moment, Wu Wei's gaze fell on the fellow that had almost gnawed on the little spirit. His eyes narrowed, and that fellow's attributes appeared. Rune Monster, Mud Swamp Crocodile. Level, 15. Strength, 3, Constitution, 3, Agility, 3. Skills, Disguise, Death Roll. Looking at its attributes, Wu Wei patted the little elf. Little guy, do you want to take revenge? As soon as Wu Wei said this, the little elf stopped crying and looked up at Wu Wei. Her little face was full of hatred as she nodded her head madly. Then you do this. You go over and lure it over. Once it comes out, you use the soil to transform and control it. Huang will deal with it. Wu Wei whispered into the little fellow's ear, explaining the specific operation method. When the little elf heard that she had to go up again, she immediately hesitated. Just as Wu Wei was about to continue persuading him, the little fellow nodded his head heavily. Well, it was obvious that it was more vengeful than afraid. Then, the little thing that was crying while hugging Wu Wei flew back to the swamp. At first, she was a little scared, but when she arrived above the swamp and the swamp crocodile pounced on her again, she was stunned. Wu Wei could clearly see the excitement on the little elf's face. With a flap of its little wings, it suddenly rose up by 1 or 2 meters. As it dodged, it used soil transformation at the first moment. The 1-star earth-modified binding power was still acceptable. At that moment, the earth swamp crocodile was controlled. On the side, Huang, who was ready to attack, seized the opportunity and pounced forward. He grabbed the swamp crocodile's mouth and exploded with 5.9 strength. Then, this swamp crocodile with particularly balanced attributes was caught by Huang and brought ashore. The outcome of a swamp crocodile that was on the shore, or one that had its mouth caught, was obvious. Huang's head exploded after 2 or 3 punches. The little elf on the side was excited to see the bad guy who had almost bitten her just now being bitten to death. She flapped her little wings and went over to kick the corpse twice. After she was done, she ran to Wu Wei to show off. GG, Wu Wei, I killed the bad guy. I'm powerful, right? Amazing, amazing. My little elf is the most amazing. It's all thanks to you that we can eliminate this bad guy. With Wu Wei's praise, the little fellow's tail immediately soared to the sky. She patted her small chest to show that the little fairy still wanted to beat up the bad guys. On the side, Huang looked at the little elf who had been tricked by Wu Wei, and the smile on his innocent face became even brighter. The little fairy flapped her little wings and flew over, touching Huang's head with her little hand. GG. The big guy is so pitiful. He's so silly. But it's okay, I will protect you. I am very smart. Come, big guy, I will take you to beat up the bad guys. With that, the little elf brought a huang and continued to copy the monster killing technique. Although many rune monsters had high intelligence, the swamp crocodiles were not among them, especially the ordinary swamp crocodiles. Therefore, the wisp's copying tactic was quite effective. It was almost as if he had caught every one of them, and in less than 10 minutes, he had already killed 3 more. Wu Wei was very satisfied when he saw that his 2 summoned beasts could move without his command. This is the correct way for a divine talisman summoner to open it. With a little brother, why would I need to do it myself? Wu Wei felt that he could now set up a chair, place a cup of tea, take out a book, and drink tea while watching the little sprites farm monsters. Of course, Wu Wei would not be so arrogant. Besides, Wisp and the others were in charge of farming monsters, while Wu Wei was in charge of logistics. Afterward, Wu Wei pulled out his tree spirit long blade and walked toward the corpses of the swamp crocodiles. Wu Wei and the others were not very lucky today. None of the 4 swamp crocodiles dropped anything, but there were still corpses. Rune monsters before level 11 would drop when they died, and their corpses would respawn very quickly. After level 11, it would be relatively slower, and they would remain for a certain amount of time. This period of time gave the Divine Talisman Master a lot of room to work. The Academy did teach gathering skills, and Wu Wei had learned it before, but he had never had the chance to practice it before. Now, the chance had come. The most valuable part of the mud swamp crocodile's material should be its heart, then its skin and teeth. As he recalled the information on the swamp crocodile, Wu Wei flipped it over and stabbed it in the stomach. He tore open the stomach and took out the heart with great effort. Taking out the heart was only the beginning of the collection. The next step was the most important. Next, Wu Wei needed to inject Reiki into his heart to turn it into a talisman. Only then would the collection be considered successful. This was also the real difficulty of gathering. Wu Wei carefully tried to inject his spirit energy into it according to the method taught by the Academy. In the end, a few seconds later, there was a sound. The bright red heart in Wu Wei's hand exploded, and the crocodile's corpse under his feet also turned into nothingness. The collection had failed. Chapter 73-73 Free Food Falling from the Sky. 73 Free Food Falling from the Sky. Wu Wei did not feel dejected after a failed harvest. It wasn't hard to see Wu Wei's tenacity from the yellow turban iron bull stance he was cultivating. He could spend a few days trying to master the iron bull stance, and he would not give up on the gathering skill, which would greatly affect his future benefits. Without even blinking, he turned around and walked to the second one. A few minutes later, with a poof, he failed again. Wu Wei summarized the situation and walked toward the third one. He failed again. The fourth one, the fifth one. Wu Wei failed 7 times in a row. However, the consecutive failures were not a blow to Wu Wei. As the old saying went, failure is the mother of success. Wu Wei was reflecting on his every failure. Learning from this experience would allow him to be closer to success in his next harvest. Finally, on the 8th harvest, Wu Wei successfully completed the collection. Swish. With a dull sound, the heart in Wu Wei's hand turned into a talisman. At the same time, a row of words appeared before Wu Wei's eyes. A condition was triggered. Wu Wei did not expect to be able to trigger the condition and was rather surprised. What will happen after I fulfill this condition? My own quality upgrade? Do I have any quality? Wu Wei was very curious, but he did not probe further. Who cares? I'll know once the conditions are met. Then, Wu Wei's gaze fell on the talisman in his hand. Material talisman, broken heart of a swamp crocodile. Rarity, normal. Level, 15. Description: because the Divine Talisman Master is not familiar with the technique, its quality is much lower than the original. If it was a high-quality heart, 10 of them could probably be exchanged for 1 contribution point. If it was a normal heart, it would probably take more than 50 of them to exchange for 1 heart. However, Wu Wei did not mind. He put away the talisman, but did not continue to collect it. The main problem was that he didn't have the materials. Seeing that Wu Wei had finished his work, the little fairy on the side immediately flew over from Ah Wang's head and hugged Wu Wei, acting cute. It expressed that the bad guys here were too bad. They weren't obedient at all and didn't let it hit them. They all avoided it. It made some gibberish and gestured, and Wu Wei roughly knew what was going on. Although the swamp crocodiles didn't have much intelligence, they couldn't withstand the little sprite's torture. In less than half an hour, 8 of them were killed, and the swamp crocodiles were on guard. Don't get close to the edge of the swamp. Although the little sprites tried to provoke them and bite them, because they were not close to the edge of the swamp, Ah Huang could not ambush them immediately. The little sprites' tricks were immediately useless. It's fine. If they don't come over, we'll go over. Why did Wu Wei choose the crocodile swamp? On one hand, there were few people here. On the other hand, he felt that this map suited him very well. To be exact, it was very suitable for Little Elf. The most dangerous aspect of this kind of swamp was its terrain. However, the Little Elf could completely eliminate the dangerous element of the terrain. Under Wu Wei's command, the wisps began to move. The 1-star soil modification skill was activated. Very quickly, a 1 meter wide and 10 meter long dirt road appeared in the swamp in front of Wu Wei and the others. This dirt road split the swamp in front of them into 2. It had to be said that the crocodile swamp did not mean that it was a huge swamp. In fact, the crocodile swamp was an area with large swamps and small swamps. The swamps in this area were usually not very large. The swamp that the little elf at the front had just dug was only 10 meters wide. Now that the little fairy had paved the way, it had directly opened up the swamp. The reason why Wu Wei had the little fairy create this path was not to pass through, but to cut out a small part of the swamp. Then, Wu Wei chose a part of the swamp and had the little fairy solidify it from one direction to the other. The little fairy didn't understand what Wu Wei was trying to do, but when it slowly solidified a part of the swamp that was about 50 to 60 square meters in size, it felt that Wu Wei's attack was too powerful. The little fairy saw the bad guys running out of the swamp in a panic, and then they were caught by Ah Huang, who was guarding in another direction. The little guy got excited and tried even harder to freeze. In a short while, the 4 bad guys within the 50 to 60 square meters were all killed. This wave of 4 swamp crocodiles finally contributed a light spot to Wu Wei. It was white, and Wu Wei excitedly opened it to take a look. Good quality mud swamp crocodile heart. He spat out a mouthful of blood on the spot. However, even though they had vomited blood, Little Elf and Ah Huang had also unlocked the monster farming routine in version 2.0, the net fishing routine. This method was quite useful, but the only drawback was that it consumed a lot of spiritual energy. Fortunately, the little fairy's mud man's heart had a skill called Earth Nourishment, which seemed to be very powerful in the swamp. On top of that, the fallen magician's robe on the mountain also had a spiritual energy recovery effect. Although the little elf didn't have spiritual energy and only had spiritual energy, it was still useful. With 2 pieces of equipment and a swamp environment, the little elf could fully replenish her spiritual energy in about 20 minutes. If it was filled with spiritual energy, it could freeze a swamp of about 70 to 80 square meters. This could also be considered as barely supporting the endurance, allowing this net fish routine to continue. Wu Wei left home at 5 or 6 in the morning, and arrived at the swamp at around 8. Wu Wei started from 8 a.m. and continued to grind until 16 p.m. In 8 hours, Wu Wei and the others had killed more than 20 frozen swamps and dozens of mud swamp crocodiles. He did not know if it was because he had reached level 1 and the drop rate of light spots had dropped drastically or for some other reason, but the dozens of mud swamp crocodiles only dropped 8 light spots. And they were all materials. It was better not to have these light spots drop. After Wu Wei's first success in gathering, he had not failed since, and his proficiency had skyrocketed. After collecting about 20 crocodiles, Wu Wei was able to collect good quality materials. Right now, Wu Wei already had 50 to 60 good quality mud swamp crocodile hearts in his hands. He really didn't need these 8 more. Wu Wei couldn't help but sigh with emotion. It's so hard to make money. I've been busy all day without anyone disturbing me, and VE only gotten 6 or 7 contribution points after killing hundreds of monsters. Sigh, it seems that unless a pie falls from the sky, I'll only get 10 contribution points at most tonight. Wait a minute. Wu Wei stopped in the middle of his sentence and looked at the lush grass in front of him. Free food has really fallen from the sky. Chapter 74 to 74 Team 8322 annihilated. 74 Team 8322 annihilated. Name, Spirit Grass. Description, Superior grade spirit grass. It can be used to make spirit herbs or consumed directly. Direct consumption can gently provide a large amount of spirit energy to the consumer. There is also a chance of permanently increasing the consumer's upper limit of spirit energy. These were the attributes of the grass that Wu Wei had seen. Yes, that's right, that patch of lush green grass was the spirit grass. Wu Wei was not surprised to find spirit grass in Crocodile Swamp. Although in the Academy's mission, the location of the spiritual herb gathering mission was in the Montenegro forest, it did not mean that there were no spiritual herbs outside the Black Mountain forest. The spireate grass grew in places with abundant spirit chi. The Academy probably set the mission location in the Montenegro forest to take care of the new students. This was because the spirit grass in the Montenegro forest grew in a better environment and could be directly harvested. However, if spirit grass appeared in other places outside of the Montenegro forest, he would have to think twice before picking them. Wu Wei was well aware of this. He knew that the place that could grow the superior grade spirit grass and dozens of high quality spirit grass was definitely not ordinary. Wu Wei immediately touched the spider ring in his hand and activated spider sense. However, as soon as he activated his spider sense, roar! A roar rang out. Wu Wei had just entered the sensing state and was immediately knocked out. At the same time, with a crack sound, the ring on Wu Wei's hand cracked. It was obvious that the skill had backfired, causing the spider ring on Wu Wei's hand to be damaged. This was the case with the low-level Magic Soldier Talisman. It was either difficult to take effect on rune monsters that were above the Magic Soldier Talisman's level, or it was easy to destroy. With this, Spider Ring was considered useless. At this moment, Wu Wei didn't have the time to feel sorry for the ring, because at this moment, the guy who had let out the roar rushed out. Only then did Wu Wei see the appearance of the roaring fellow. It was still a mud swamp crocodile, but it was different from the crocodile that Wu Wei and the others had killed before. This one was much larger. The body that had been killed before was only 3 to 4 meters long, but this one was probably close to 7 to 8 meters long. Its body was yellow, and there was a yellow rune carved on its head. Its mouth was more than 2 meters wide, and it looked extremely ferocious. What shocked Wu Wei even more than its hideous appearance was its attributes. The moment it charged out, Wu Wei had already roughly seen its attributes. Rune Monster, Gator King of the Earth Swamp, Boss. Level, 20. Strength, 8 Vitality, 10 Spirit, 6 points, Agility, 8 points. Gator King's Roar 1 star, Earth Escape, 1 star, Gravity Spell, 1 star, Death Dance 1 star, Earth Armor, 2 stars. P.S. There may be undetectable skills. Description, Escape. There was no need for his stats to explain anything. When Wu Wei saw this guy's figure, he turned and ran without a word. He ran away so quickly. Fortunately, the distance between the two sides was quite far. More importantly, this boss seemed to have its own territory. It did not go too far away from the spiritual grass, which allowed Wu Wei and the others to escape easily. Otherwise, with its 8 points of agility, even if Wu Wei and the others were hundreds of meters away from it, it would not have been difficult for it to catch up to them. After running a few hundred meters away and watching the Crocodile King sink, Wu Wei finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, after exhaling, Wu Wei's expression turned gloomy again. This guy is a little difficult to deal with. The Gator King was the strongest rune monster that Wu Wei had ever seen. The lowest of all 4 attributes was 6. As for the rest, he had strength, speed, and a terrifying physique. Although this rune monster was only level 20, its combat power was probably comparable to a small team of stage 2 players. Wu Wei was sure that even if Ah Huang activated its spiritual power, it wouldn't be able to kill this big guy in 30 seconds. As such, it was almost impossible to harvest the spiritual herbs in its hands. I knew that there's no such thing as free lunch in the world. He looked at the beautiful patch of green a few hundred meters away and then looked at the spider ring that had a hole in it. Wu Wei's heart ached. But what could Wu Wei do? Since he couldn't beat the other party, Wu Wei could only turn his head and pretend he didn't see anything. Then, he gritted his teeth and said, "Continue farming." Wu Wei had to make up for his losses. In addition, he had reached 89/100 in the condition of gather. He was only 11 points away from being satisfied, and Wu Wei wanted to see what it would be like after being satisfied. After that, Wu Wei went around the boss's area and farmed for more than an hour. A few lines of words appeared before Wu Wei's eyes. 100/100. You've completed 100 collections. The skill collection has been unlocked. Your second origin, Earth Elf, has been upgraded to level 14. Its spirit has increased by 0.3 and its agility has increased by 0.1. After a whole day, hundreds of level 15 swamp crocodiles finally brought the little elf to level 14. Yellow hadn't yet, and his experience bar had only just passed 50%. It was probably because of the increase in quality that his experience bar was longer than the little elf's. As for Wu Wei, as a divine talisman summoner, he needed Ah Huang to reach level 14 to level up. At this moment, Wu Wei's eyes were on harvest. Skill, Gathering, 0/500. Classification, Normal. Description, you have mastered the gathering skill. Looking at the simple introduction, Wu Wei suddenly felt bored. Let's go back. After that, Wu Wei led Ah Huang and the others out of the swamp and found a relatively safe place. He took out the Yuehua City token and lightly touched it, leaving a mark. Then, they began to return to the city. One had to mention the Yuehua City token's function. Apart from allowing the user to go online in Yuehua City, it also had the function of returning to the city and teleporting. After Wu Wei made a mark, he didn't need to travel a long distance and could directly teleport over. This was, of course, an authority that only came with the control of Yuehua City. It was said that apart from this function, the Moonlight token had other functions, but one needed to make a contribution to unlock the new function. As for what function it was, Wu Wei was not interested at the moment. After all, he had no contribution points at the moment. Just as Wu Wei used the Moonflower order to return to the city, a village outside the city was attacked by the rune monsters. Coincidentally, this village was the mission location of Team 8322. All the members of Team 8322, including the entire village, were killed. They were all buried in the mouth of the rune monster. Not even a divine armament seal was left behind. Chapter 75 to 75 Talisman Formation Basics. 75 Talisman Formation Basics. It was already past 7 o'clock when Wu Wei returned home. When he reached home, he realized that dinner was already prepared. Wu Wei had thought that De Bai had prepared this. After all, this dinner looked quite sumptuous and had all the colors and fragrances. However, when Wu Wei took a bite under Blacka's anticipation, his expression became very subtle. "Did you make all these dishes?" Blackie nodded shyly. The anticipation in his eyes under the black robe seemed to almost penetrate the shadow. The sign behind him was raised immediately. "Is it good?" Looking at Little Black, Wu Wei was almost 100% sure that he had never tasted it before. So, he nodded, took a deep breath, and then began to madly attack. In just a few minutes, he had finished all the food on the table. After eating, Wu Wei patted Little Black's shoulder. "The food you made is very delicious, but you're not allowed to do it again next time. You have to put your focus on alchemy. Men don't have to be so outstanding in everything." With that, Wu Wei left. The moment he turned around, Wu Wei could no longer hold it in and his face contorted. From his twisted face, one could roughly tell the taste of the food on Little Black's table. Let's put it this way, if it didn't look like a vegetable and if he were to eat with his eyes closed, Wu Wei would even feel that he was taking medicine, and it was Chinese medicine. After the meal, Wu Wei did not return to his room. Instead, he went to the training room on the basement first floor. He summoned Ah Huang and the little elf in the training room. Ah Huang fed him a fine grade tree essence pill to let him practice the yellow turban iron bull stance, and the little elf let him soak in the earth attribute spell training module. As for Wu Wei, he took out a book and started reading. The book that Wu Wei was reading now was a book that Zhongli had given him. The book he was currently reading was called Talisman Formation Basics. Rune Master was actually a huge field of knowledge that could be divided into many subjects. A talisman master who studied the making of talismans, a talisman formation master who studied the runic formation, and a talisman divine weapon forger who studied the runic tools, the divine weapon talisman. The books that Zhongli sent to Wu Wei were the most basic books on these three subjects. This didn't mean that Wu Wei had to grab all three of them. In addition to the basic books of the three subjects, she also assigned 3 tasks to Wu Wei. Zhongli, or rather, Professor Hu Kaiyun, who was behind Zhongli, wanted to find out which subject Wu Wei was more suitable for and which subject he was more talented in through Wu Wei's completion rate of the 3 subjects. At this moment, Wu Wei chose the runes formation that he had obtained. The reason why he made this choice was because he was poor. Both a talisman master and a rune divine weapon forger required the corresponding equipment and materials. Wu Wei really could not afford it with his little money, so he could only learn the runic formation in front of him, which seemed to be the most common one. However, the most common runes formation basics book was the thickest. It had 16 pages and was probably more than 10 centimeters tall, which could be used as a weapon. The contents of the book were all boring technical terms. Reading this kind of book was really a kind of torture. Wu Wei couldn't take it in at first. However, he remembered that he had spent 30 contribution points to exchange for this book, which was 3,000 talismans. If he couldn't bear to watch, wouldn't these spirit talismans be for nothing? Thinking of this, Wu Wei took another look at the book. He saw that the words in the book were all about talismans, and he immediately became highly focused. Then, to Wu Wei's surprise, the originally boring content seemed to have become lively and interesting. The more Wu Wei read, the more fascinated he was. When Wu Wei came back to his senses, it was already past midnight. Wu Wei hurriedly made a bed on the ground and fell asleep. While Wu Wei was sleeping soundly on this side, someone in Yuehua City couldn't sleep on the other side. "What are you guys doing?" In Yuehua Tower, Yuehua City's Foreign Affairs Department, Wu Minjiao, the vice president of the Yuehua Academy, slammed her palm on the table. She also slapped the hearts of the people in charge of the Foreign Affairs Department in front of her. "Tell me? Is my Yuehua Academy already so lacking in manpower? They needed a team of Tier 1 students who had just entered the inner court to carry out this mission. Also, they had just gone out to carry out a mission and were immediately wiped out. Now, you're telling me that all of this was an accident, a coincidence. Do you think I'll believe your explanation? If it were you, would you believe it? You want me to tell those children this? This matter had to be dealt with seriously. Who was the one who had posted this mission? Who gave them the task? And who was in charge of the protection of that area? All of you, stand out. Under Wu Minjiu's cold gaze, several people stood up one after another, trembling. These people, without exception, were all the backbone of the academy, and among them were Wu Minjiu's own confidants. At this moment, Wu Minjiu didn't even blink. All of you, report to the Bright Moon restaurant. Also, from today onwards, cancel the mandatory Tier 1 party quest. In addition, immediately form a special team and thoroughly investigate this matter. I will be the team leader. No matter what, we must give those children and their parents a satisfactory explanation. In a cave outside Yuehua City, one of the snakes spat out a spider jade pendant. A man picked up the sticky jade pendant and frowned. Something's wrong. To this person, there was no news worse than this. He had taken such a big risk to do this, but in the end, he had not achieved his goal. Now that Yuehua City had been alerted, he would be in a very passive position. This is going to be troublesome. Wu Wei, who was sound asleep, had no idea what had happened. He had a good night's sleep and slept all the way until dawn. The first thing Wu Wei did when he got up was to check on Huang and the little fairy. The little fairy was still sleeping, lying in the earth element spell training module. However, although it was sleeping, Earth Nourishment's passive skill was still active. After all, it was sleeping on the soil. Wu Wei took a look. Earth Nourishment had already reached 27111/50,000. It was already halfway done, and he believed that it would be completed in a while. Beside the little elf, Huang had just finished digesting the fine-grade tree spirit pill. Wu Wei took a look and saw that Huang's proficiency in the yellow turban iron bull stance had increased by about 74. It had taken him slightly more than 10 hours, which was much faster than Wu Wei's estimated 12 hours. Well, if I do this every day, it will take at most half a month for Huang to raise the yellow turban iron bull stance to 2 stars. At that time, I may consider killing that Gator King. Although it was a little difficult, it didn't matter. If half a month didn't work, then 1 month. If 1 month didn't work, then 3 months. In any case, he could earn about 10 contribution points a day now. With 300 contribution points a month, it should be enough to buy medicine. I'm not in a hurry. As long as I have time, I'll be able to kill that Gator King sooner or later. As he spoke, Wu Wei prepared to farm the crocodiles. At this moment, his phone rang, and he received a push notification from the Yuehua Academy. Wu Wei's face turned pale as he looked at the content of the message. Chapter 76 to 76 The Yellow Turban Iron Bull stands 2 stars. 76 The Yellow Turban Iron Bull stands 2 stars. Yuehua City had announced the annihilation of Team 8322 almost immediately. They announced that Team 8322 had been wiped out and labeled the time as Yuehua City's oversight. They also announced Yuehua City's plan to deal with the situation. The Director of Foreign Affairs, the Director of Security, and the Chief of the Missions Department had been dismissed. The Academy could be said to be full of sincerity. The students were all impressed by the Academy's reaction. However, even though they were both students, Wu Wei's expression wasn't good when he saw the notification. He wasn't going there for the Academy. He simply felt the aura of danger. His intuition told him that the spider jade pendant was definitely behind this. When he saw the spider jade pendant in the hands of Team 8322, Wu Wei had a vague feeling that there was something behind the jade pendant. He realized that it might be dangerous to keep the jade pendant with them, and even advised them to sell it. However, he didn't expect that he wouldn't be able to save them. 8322's party was annihilated. Not even a corpse was left. This sent a chill down Wu Wei's spine. If Team 8322 really died because of the jade, would the person who did it notice that something was wrong with the jade? Would he be suspected? In that instant, Wu Wei broke out in a cold sweat. The first thing he thought of was to find the academy and tell them about this. However, the moment he stood up, Wu Wei stopped. He realized that he couldn't say this. If the death of Team 8322 was not an accident, but a deliberate murder, and the purpose was really for the spider jade pendant, then there are at least a few reasons. That person, or rather, that group of people, knew that the spider jade pendant was in the hands of Team 8322. They had the ability to influence the mission of Team 8322. In other words, that person, or that group of people, is very likely to be from the academy. They might even be one of the higher UPS of the academy. At this point, Wu Wei's expression turned even uglier. If that's the case, then I can't expose myself at will. After all, if I were to expose myself casually, I might expose myself to the other party's gun before they realize it. There's still a little more. After saying that, Wu Wei paused and summoned the rune book. And the most important point is that I can't prove what I said unless I'm willing to expose my cheat. However, if I were to expose my cheat, the situation that I'm about to face might be even more dangerous than what I'm facing now. Of course, there might be a different result. He might even get the help of the entire academy to quickly improve his strength. However, Wu Wei did not dare to take the risk, because this was not a gamble to open the blind box, but a gamble of his life. If he lost, he would not only go bankrupt, but he would also be left with nothing. You can't tell anyone. No matter what, he couldn't say it out. Maybe this matter would end here. Besides, even if it wasn't because of this, people wouldn't suspect me, so I can't panic. After much effort, Wu Wei finally managed to calm himself down. After that, Wu Wei tried his best to pretend that nothing had happened and returned to his usual routine. He activated the Moonlight token and teleported to the crocodile swamp, starting his day of killing monsters. In the next few days, Wu Wei tried his best to pretend that nothing had happened. During the day, he would go to the crocodile swamp to farm monsters and read at night. However, no matter how Wu Wei pretended, what had happened was what had happened. He could not really pretend that nothing had happened. As a result, some of his actions had inevitably changed. At night, he was purely reading books. On the second day, Wu Wei started to practice the yellow turban iron bowl pile. He asked the little fairy to help him flip through the books while he cultivated and read at the same time. At first, Wu Wei was not used to it. After 2 nights of multitasking, he finally got used to it. This guy increased his code again and went to find Little Black to ask for the tree spirit dregs. He ate medicine, cultivated, and read. At first, when Wu Wei asked Blackie for the herbal dregs to cultivate, Blackie didn't believe him. When he came over to take a look, Little Black believed him and was convinced. Wu Wei would take a big mouthful of the bitter and unpalatable medicine dregs. After that, he could still bear the itchiness and cultivate. Not only that, he could also read books while cultivating. Looking at Wu Wei, who was in so much pain and working so hard, Little Dark swore to himself that he would definitely make a good medicine for Wu Wei. And so, on the 5th day of Xiahei's arrival at Wu Wei's dormitory, Wu Wei saw the upgraded version of the Tree Spirit medicinal dregs. Item: high quality Tree Spirit dregs. Rarity: fine. Level: 11. Description: an upgraded version of the original high quality herbal dregs. The itchiness has been upgraded, and there's also a tingling sensation. However, the cultivation effect has also been upgraded. After the medicinal dregs were produced, Blackie felt unwell after taking a bite. Other than the bad taste and side effects, she felt more frustrated. She had wanted to make the herbal dregs for Wu Wei, but the side effects seemed to be worse. She didn't even know if she should give the medicinal dregs to Wu Wei. When she passed the medicine to Wu Wei, he was so excited that he hugged her and spun around. Blackie's face and ears turned red from Wu Wei's sudden bear hug. After Wu Wei put her down, he patted her shoulder and said, "Brother, you should eat more and exercise more. You're so light and your body smells nice. If it weren't for your flat chest muscles, I would have thought you were a girl." One sentence was enough to petrify the shy Blackie. Wu Wei didn't mind. He turned around and went to try the new dregs. In Wu Wei's words, the effect of the new medicine dregs was very strong. Even Wu Wei took a full 2 days to get used to it. After getting used to it, Wu Wei discovered that the effects of the new herbal dregs increased the cultivation efficiency of the old herbal dregs by at least 3 times. Moreover, Wu Wei realized that after using the new medicinal dregs, he was even more focused on reading the book while in pain. After 8 days, Wu Wei finally finished reading the Talisman Formation Basics. After he finished reading the book, the number 1/100 appeared in front of Wu Wei again. This time, Wu Wei clearly understood what he meant. As long as he tried it 100 times, he would be able to master the Talisman Formation Basics. Wu Wei took 8 days to watch it the first time. Theoretically, it would take at least 800 days to watch it 100 times. But in reality, Wu Wei did not need that much time. With the first round of memory and the pain from the exquisite grade tree essence pill, Wu Wei's efficiency increased greatly, and he completed 1 round in 2 days. At the same time, Wu Wei also completed the second reading and completed the Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance with 2 stars. Your skill, Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance, has been upgraded to 2-star. Your strength and physique have both been increased by 2 points. You've endured great pain to train your spirit. Your spirit has increased by 3 points. Chapter 77 to 77 Deep in the Crocodile Swamp. 77 Deep in the Crocodile Swamp. Name, Wu Wei. Strength, 4.3 Vitality, 4.8 Spirit, 4.3, Agility 1.3, Spiritual Power, 30. First Origin, Yellow Scarved Strongman, Yellow, Excellent, Level 15. Second Origin, Earth Fairy, Fine, Level 15. Skills Mastered, Pig Slaughtering Knife, Yellow Turban Iron Bull Stake, 2 stars, 1/10,000, Gathering, 489/500. Looking at his attributes, Wu Wei felt that his efforts in the past 12 days had not been in vain. In addition to the Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance reaching 2 stars, his level had also reached level 15. After leveling up by 2 levels, he had gained 0.1 strength and 0.1 vitality. Of course, Wu Wei's own level up did not help much in improving his strength, but it was a different story for Little Elf and Ah Huang. They had all reached level 15, and the little elf had gained 0.3 spirit and 0.1 agility. His mental strength had reached 3.7, and his agility had reached 2.2. Ah Huang was even more terrifying. His level had also increased by 2 levels, and because his quality had been upgraded to excellent, these 2 levels had given him an additional 1.2 attribute points. His strength had reached 6.5, and his vitality had reached 6.6. In terms of level, the increase in Wu Wei's strength could be said to be negligible. However, his Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance had reached 2 stars before Ah Huang. The 2-star Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance had greatly strengthened Wu Wei's combat power. Using the Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance in his Reiki state could temporarily increase his strength by 5 points. When his strength reached 9 points, he could only hold on for about 3 minutes. In the state of spiritual force, his strength could even soar to 29.2. It was extremely terrifying. The only drawback was that Wu Wei could still be a real man for 3 seconds. After becoming a 2-star, Wu Wei felt that he could barely last for 1 second. However, as a divine talisman summoner, Wu Wei was already very satisfied with such combat power. The only thing that made Wu Wei a little worried was that after 12 days, the two kids had not broken through. However, they were already close to the critical point of a breakthrough. Little Elf's Earth Nourishment reached 49821/50,000, and Change Earth to Stone reached 9812/10,000. Wang's Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance had reached 926/1000. He should be able to reach perfection within these 2 days. In terms of strength, Wu Wei's progress in the past 12 days had satisfied him. However, in terms of profit and contribution, Wu Wei was not satisfied with his 12 points. He had earned quite a bit. He was earning close to 10 contribution points a day, which was equivalent to about 1,000 spirit talismans. It was a huge sum of money. However, the problem was that Wu Wei earned and spent a lot. Putting everything else aside, Wu Wei had spent over 100 contribution points on the medicinal dregs alone. He only had 15 contribution points left in his pocket. What made Wu Wei even more upset was that De Bai had reminded him again yesterday that it was time to pay for the property and maintenance fees of the dormitory. The pressure of 10 contribution points gave Wu Wei a huge headache. What gave Wu Wei a bigger headache was that Li Kai's teacher was as unreliable as ever. He had already promised to find him a roommate, but there had been no news from him for almost half a month. At this rate, Wu Wei felt that he and Little Black would be kicked out of the house. Why don't we just move out? For a moment, Wu Wei even thought of this, but he quickly shook his head. It's better not to. The security level of the B-class dormitory is high here. I'm not safe now. Who knows if someone is watching me? It's safer to stay here. Besides, Little Black also likes this place. Wu Wei still attached great importance to Little Black. It couldn't be helped. He was such a good friend that he immediately gave 20 high-quality tree essence pills. For the past half a month, Little Black had taken care of all of Wu Wei's medicine dregs. If it wasn't for Wu Wei forcing him to give it to Little Black, he wouldn't have asked for money. For the sake of his safety and Little Black, Wu Wei made a decision. Looks like we'll have to do something big tomorrow. The next morning, Wu Wei had woken up at 6. He got up on time, just 5 minutes before Huang finished absorbing the tree spirit pill and finished his cultivation. Wu Wei took 5 minutes to wash up. When he was done, he picked up the breakfast and lunch that De Bai had prepared for him. By then, it was almost done for Huang. Then, Wu Wei put Huang away. When they were teleported to the crocodile swamp, he immediately released Huang and let him enter combat mode. It could be said that there were 24 hours a day, and Huang only had less than an hour of rest time. The rest of the time, he was either fighting or cultivating. The capitalists would cry if they saw such exploitation. Fortunately, Huang was a summoning beast of the divine talisman, and it could be considered a rest when practicing the Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance. Otherwise, if it were someone else, they would have been exhausted by Wu Wei. When Wu Wei and the others arrived, Huang, Little Wisp, and the rest stood up. After all, they had been here for more than 10 days, and they were familiar with everything. However, just as they were about to come out and kill the monsters, Wu Wei waved his hand. Today, we won't be using the ones outside. Let's go inside. Wu Wei had been farming in the crocodile swamp for more than 10 days, and in these 10 days, Wu Wei had actually been staying at the periphery of the crocodile swamp without the net going deep. Otherwise, Wu Wei would not have encountered any elite monsters for half a month. The reason why Wu Wei didn't go deep into it previously was because, on one hand, it was because of the Gator King's existence. On one hand, he didn't understand the situation inside. Now that half a month had passed, Wu Wei had a general understanding of the crocodile swamp situation. He also knew the situation of the Gator King. Although the Gator King was very terrifying, its territory was very small. It was only a swamp with a diameter of about 300 meters. As long as you didn't approach it or tease it, it wouldn't come out to bother you. After figuring out the Gator King's condition and the environment inside, Wu Wei felt that he could go deep into the swamp. Wisp was very happy with Wu Wei's decision. In the past 10 days, it had long been tired of fighting the silly bad guys outside, but it was very interested in the bad guys in the depths of the swamp. On one hand, it had been sent by Wu Wei to scout the situation for the past 10 days, and it had been chased out several times. On one hand, this little guy felt that the bad guys inside seemed to be very delicious, very fragrant, and very delicious. Recently, it had been acting coquettishly with Wu Wei, asking him to kill more people, but Wu Wei would never agree. She didn't expect that Wu Wei would say something before she could say anything today. This made the little elf very happy. It flapped its little wings and flew to Wu Wei's face, giving him a big kiss on the cheek, covering his face in mud. Then, the little guy impatiently pulled Wu Wei into the depths of the crocodile swamp. They walked on the relatively solid ground with ease and avoided the swamp where the Gator King was. The vengeful little fellow brought Wu Wei and Ah Huang straight to the swamp where the bad guy had almost bitten it a few days ago. It was time for her to take revenge. Chapter 78-78 Crocodiles Fang Bao. 78 Crocodiles Fang Bao. Outside Yuehua City, on the edge of the crocodile swamp. The morning sun fell on a swamp crocodile, and the warm sunlight made it look particularly lazy. While the crocodile was enjoying its life. Suddenly, a fist-sized rock fell from the sky and hit the crocodile's nose with precision. The damage was completely negligible compared to the crocodile, but it still opened its eyes and lazily looked at the little yellow person 5 or 6 meters above its head. Seeing this little fellow, the crocodile revealed an undisguisable killing intent. However, it didn't bite the little elf. Instead, it closed its eyes impatiently and lowered its body a little, as if it didn't want to talk to the little fairy. The main reason was that it had tried to catch the little spirit several times in the past few days, but this little guy was too slippery, and it couldn't catch it at all. After a few failures, it was too lazy to pay attention to the little fairy. However, it didn't get a clear sky in exchange for taking a step back. It had just dived in when it suddenly felt as if the soil around it had betrayed it. The soil had become hard, as if it was trying to condense it into a piece. It was her. The alligators, who were obviously smarter than the ones outside, instantly understood what was going on after panicking for a while. It didn't bite it, but it still dared to attack. This crocodile couldn't stand it. It opened its mouth and roared. Its strength exploded, and it jumped out of the soil and attacked the little fairy. Seeing the crocodile's sudden attack, the prepared little elf interrupted her casting and turned to run. Seeing the little fairy run away, the enraged crocodile didn't give up even though it knew it couldn't catch up to the little fellow. It still wanted to see if it could catch up to the detestable little fellow. And it died immediately after trying. After chasing for more than 10 m, a yellow guy jumped out and punched the crocodile's head, making it buzz. When it realized what had happened, it had been pressed down on the ground. At the same time, Wu Wei also saw the attributes of the crocodile that was controlled by Ah Huang. Rune Monster, Elite Mud Swamp Crocodile. Level, 18. Strength, 4.5 Vitality, 4.5 Agility, 3.9. Skills mastered, Disguise, Death Roll, Earth Armor. The moment Wu Wei saw this fellow's attributes, it activated Earth Armor almost immediately, and a thin layer of earth yellow light appeared on its body. However, before it was born, Ah Huang interrupted it with another punch. After a few more punches, the poor crocodile with a huge temper was killed. When the little fairy saw that the bad guy had been killed, she came down immediately. This time, she didn't kick the crocodile a few times. Instead, she anxiously asked Ah Huang to turn the crocodile over. Then, she pointed at the crocodile's heart and started chattering to Wu Wei. It meant that the little fairy wanted the fragrant ones here. I know, I know. Don't rush me. I'm coming. Wu Wei went up with his knife. As a veteran who had peeled the hearts of hundreds of crocodiles, Wu Wei's movements were swift. In just a few moves, Wu Wei had managed to peel off the crocodile's skin. Just peeling it off wasn't enough to eat. Wu Wei still had to collect it. As Wu Wei's spirit chi entered, the heart in his hand began to glow. Wu Wei could feel that part of the heart's glow came from his spirit chi, while the other part was from absorbing the crocodile's essence. If this thing was completely collected, it would be a fine quality heart, which should be the earth attribute energy core of the little elf's second condition. Upon realizing this, Wu Wei felt a little more pressured. After all, his gathering skill proficiency was still lacking, and he could only gather high-quality materials at the moment. He didn't know if he could successfully collect a high-quality heart. However, the little fairy was looking at him with reverence and anticipation. If Wu Wei were to fail, the little fellow would probably cry. It didn't matter if she cried or not, but Wu Wei didn't want the admiration in Wisp's eyes to disappear. Thus, Wu Wei gritted his teeth and focused his mind to stabilize the output of spiritual energy. About a minute later, the heart in Wu Wei's hand turned into a talisman. At the same time, 2 lines of words appeared before Wu Wei's eyes. You've successfully collected fine-grade mud swamp crocodile heart. You've collected a fine-grade material. Your gathering skill proficiency has increased by 15. Your gathering skill has been upgraded to 1 star. At the same time, when the little fairy next to Wu Wei saw the talisman, she immediately pounced on it and bit down on it, eating it in a few bites. At the same time, the number 1/20th appeared in front of Wu Wei's eyes. It was obvious that a high-quality crocodile heart was a high-quality energy core. Although the little elf had eaten 1 contribution point in 1 bite, Wu Wei was still willing to part with it since it concerned the little elf's quality. While the little elf was eating the energy core with a whoop sound, Ah Huang, who was at the side, silently held up a green dot of light and brought it to Wu Wei. Well, the elite monster dropped something. Moreover, although it had not been opened yet, Wu Wei could vaguely see that there was something in the shape of a bow inside. It was clearly a divine armament seal. Well done. Wu Wei immediately beamed. He patted Ah Huang's shoulder, took the green light, and opened it. Divine Weapon Seal, Crocodile Fang Bow. Effect 1, increases the user's agility by 2 points. Effect 2, increases the wearer's accuracy by 1. Effect 3, additional skill Fang Arrow, the skill comes with penetration and tearing effects. The strength of the distance effect is related to the actual output of spiritual energy, skill control, and arrow quality. Good stuff. Wu Wei didn't need to look at anything else. Just the usage conditions and the additional skill Fang Arrow that had effect 3 were enough to know the value of this God Weapon Seal. There were no conditions for use, so Wu Wei could use it now. The additional skill Fang Arrow was similar to the previous pig slaughtering knife, which could temper the body of a divine talisman master. Unlike pig slaughtering knife, Fang Arrow was much more powerful. Although he had never tried it out, Wu Wei was sure that Fang Arrow was a skill that dealt a lot of damage. The only flaw was that the crocodile had only dropped the bow, not the arrows. Wu Wei could not test the power of this bow on the spot. Not bad, not bad. It's a good start. It seems that my earnings today will be very gratifying. With that, Wu Wei led Ah Huang and the little fairy into the depths of the crocodile swamp. Chapter 79-79 Intense Battle. 79 Intense Battle. Outside Yuehua City, deep in the crocodile swamp. After taking down the first elite-grade crocodile, Wu Wei began to advance deeper into the crocodile swamp. Wu Wei had originally thought that the depths of the swamp would be filled with danger. After all, the outer circle of the swamp was the habitat of ordinary crocodiles, while the inner circle was generally inhabited by elite crocodiles. Wu Wei had already made preparations for a great battle at any moment. However, when Wu Weijin entered the depths, he did not encounter any major battles. The swamp was quiet, and there was not a single crocodile. What is this? Could it be that the crocodiles in the inner circle were all elite crocodiles, so there were fewer of them? Or are you hiding them? Wu Wei furrowed his brows and ordered the little fairy to use the earth escape technique to carefully inspect the area within a 50-meter radius. But he found nothing. The feedback he received was that there were no bad guys around. While Wu Wei was still confused, the little elf, who had used all her strength to fly tens of meters into the air, suddenly cried out in excitement. Gigi, Wu Wei, the little elf has seen the bad guy. With that, the little fellow led Wu Wei and the others deeper into the swamp. Following the little elf's guidance, Wu Wei saw the bad guy after walking for less than 100 meters. When he saw that scoundrel, Wu Wei's eyes narrowed. He saw an elite crocodile lying on the ground a few dozen meters ahead. Beside the crocodile was a wooden treasure chest and a field of green herbs. Even though he was tens of meters away, Wu Wei could still recognize it at a glance. Wasn't that the spirit herb? An elite monster, a treasure chest, and a small patch of spiritual grass. This was a huge profit. However, Wu Wei gave the order as soon as he saw it. Wu Wei's previous experience told him that there was no such thing as a free lunch. Even if there was a free lunch, he had to eat it carefully. Because no one knew what was inside the pie. The situation after he came in was too abnormal. He did not encounter any crocodiles along the way, and the only one had a treasure chest and a spirit grass beside it. This made Wu Wei feel as if it was a trap specially prepared for him. And the facts proved that Wu Wei was right. This was a trap specially prepared for him. Elite level gators' intelligence was quite high, so high that they could set a trap for Wu Wei. It was already too late for Wu Wei to leave. Wu Wei was just about to retreat. Without any warning, two elite tier crocodiles suddenly sprang out from the side, biting towards Wu Wei and Ah Huang ferociously. This sudden attack had caught Wu Wei and the others off guard. What? How can there be alligators here? Wu Wei had checked the area and there shouldn't be any crocodiles around. Camouflage. Wu Wei instantly reacted. Camouflage. It's a camouflage skill. Wu Wei had seen the disguise skill on these crocodiles before, but after killing normal crocodiles for more than 10 days, they had not been able to display the effect of disguise, so Wu Wei had subconsciously forgotten that crocodiles had this skill. What surprised Wu Wei even more was that the disguise skill was actually so powerful. It was enough to make the crocodiles avoid his search. When he guessed that it was the skill, Wu Wei realized that his current situation was not optimistic. One of the two crocodiles had already bitten Ah Wang's left leg, and the other had bitten his left shoulder. The two crocodiles turned their bodies at the same time, trying to use death roll to tear Ah Huang into two. However, before it could turn, yellow light flickered on Ah Wang's body. The Reiki state of the yellow turban iron bull stance was activated, and Ah Wang's strength instantly soared to 9.5. A layer of yellow light wrapped around his body to prevent the two crocodiles from biting deeply. He clenched his right fist and punched the elite crocodile that was biting his right leg. At the same time, Wu Wei also reacted. The treant's long blade in his hand slashed upwards from the bottom, cutting into the crocodile's abdomen. Half of its head was almost chopped off. In just a few seconds, Wu Wei and Ah Huang had finished off their opponents. However, just as Wu Wei and the others finished off their opponents, they looked up and Wu Wei's expression changed. Around them, the elite alligators who had been hiding all popped their heads out. There were almost 3 layers of them inside and 3 layers of them outside. A rough estimate put there at least 20 to 30 of them. Perhaps all the elite crocodiles in the depths of the crocodile swamp had arrived. Numbing your ass. At this moment, Wu Wei clearly knew that it was too late for them to escape in this situation. Not to mention the terrain, these elite gator fish had an average agility of 3.9. Wu Wei and Ah Huang, with their short legs, would definitely not be able to escape. Under such circumstances, Wu Wei had no choice but to fight with his back to the wall. However, even though it was a desperate battle, Wu Wei didn't dare to act rashly. Instead, he gave the little fairy a look and had her use earth modification to slowly change the environment under their feet. He had to make the ground as solid as possible and expand the area. This wasn't difficult for the wisp. Under its control, the ground under Wu Wei and the others' feet slowly and secretly changed. Wu Wei and Ah Huang were confronting the crocodiles around them, attracting their attention and buying time for them. However, Wu Wei had underestimated the intelligence of these crocodiles. The crocodiles immediately noticed the change in the ground under Wu Wei's feet. In an instant, the eyes of 20 to 30 elite crocodiles turned red, and they pounced at almost the same time. Wu Wei's expression changed. "Little elf, turn the earth into stone and guard our underground. Ah Huang, you'll be in charge of the front and I'll be in charge of the back. We'll fight back to back." Just as Wu Wei gave the order, Renekton rushed over. The enemy was already in front of him, and Wu Wei couldn't care about anything else. Without a word, he immediately activated the Iron Bull stance in his spiritual energy state. His strength instantly soared to 9.2, and a yellow protective shield appeared on his body. The sudden surge of powerful energy made Wu Wei feel as if he was invincible. Of course, this was not entirely an illusion. With his powerful strength, he sent an elite-level crocodile flying a few meters away with just one blow. If it was any other opponent, this attack would have been fatal. However, the crocodile's vitality was 4.5, and it had the protection of earth armor. Although Wu Wei's attack was powerful, it was not enough to kill it in one hit. On Wu Wei's side, one crocodile was sent flying with each slash. He had just used up all his strength and had not yet recovered when a crocodile at the side seized the opportunity to pounce on him and bite him. At this critical moment, Wu Wei retracted his hand and avoided being bitten. However, the long sword in its hand was bitten by the crocodile. The crocodile that bit the tree spirit's long sword did a death roll immediately. With just a turn, the divine weapon seal that had followed Ah Huang and Wu Wei was directly broken. Wu Wei didn't care about the tree spirit's long blade, as he grabbed the elite crocodile that had failed to roll over, and viciously stabbed the remaining long blade into its heart. At this moment, Wu Wei could no longer care about destroying the heart and not being able to collect it. If he could not live, what was the point of collecting it? The ferocious slash allowed Wu Wei to finally get the first kill. However, the weapon in his hand was also scrapped. At this time, two more crocodiles attacked Wu Wei from the ground. Their target was clearly to bite off Wu Wei's legs. Wu Wei could not react in time and was about to be bitten. The ground beneath the two crocodiles suddenly turned into soil. Half of their bodies sank in, and then the soil turned into stone and trapped them. This was clearly the work of the little elf. Just this one attack had consumed 3/4 of the little elf's spiritual energy. Its efforts were not in vain. Wu Wei seized the opportunity to attack the two crocodiles that were trapped with their lower jaws exposed. Die! Die! He kicked the crocodile's jaw with extreme violence. One foot broke the earth armor and the other kicked the crocodile's jaw. With just 2 kicks, he killed an elite crocodile. Cervical vertebra, it's the cervical vertebra. Wu Wei suddenly realized that he had killed the alligators so easily because he had broken their spines. He quickly copied it to the other crocodile, breaking its defense with one kick and killing the enemy with the other. At this point, Wu Wei finally managed to kill 3 people with great difficulty. As soon as Wu Wei finished his triple kill, 2 more crocodiles came up to him. Wu Wei reacted quickly and parried one, but he couldn't parry the other one and was about to bite. Suddenly, with a plop, a long blade pierced through the crocodile. He killed crocodile in one hit, and immediately followed up with another backhanded slash, directly killing crocodile, who was in a stalemate with Wu Wei. Wu Wei was dumbfounded at how easily Ah Huang had killed two of them. At the same time, a line of words appeared before Wu Wei's eyes. 7/100. Chapter 80-80 Devouring the Heart of the Mud Golem. 80 Devouring the Heart of the Mud Golem. Unlike Wu Wei's side, which was having a hard time, Ah Huang's side was killing the enemies much more easily. On one hand, the divine soldier talisman that Ah Huang was wearing was much better than Wu Wei's. He had the fang blade in his hand, goblin cloth shoes on his feet, and goblin leather armor on his body. Every one of them was a high-quality divine weapon seal. The leather armor and cloth shoes provided attributes and defense, and the knife in his hand could ignore 50% of the opponent's defense. In addition to Ah Huang's powerful pig slaughtering knife, it made Ah Huang invincible on the battlefield. The main ones were the fang knife and the powerful pig slaughtering knife. The fang knife was out of the question. Pig slaughtering knife was originally a charging skill, but after the enhancement, it seemed to have become a normal attack. Without any specific posture, any knife could be a powerful pig-killing knife. This was a huge boost to Ah Huang's combat power. In addition, Wu Wei noticed that powerful pig slaughtering knife should be able to be upgraded. The number in front of Wu Wei's eyes should be the level up number for powerful pig slaughtering knife. Compared to leveling up, Wu Wei was more concerned about the number of enemies Yellow had killed. There were 7 of them, and Wu Wei had 3 on his side. This meant that they had already eliminated nearly 1/3 of the enemies in this short period of time. Wu Wei raised his head and looked again. Half of the crocodiles surrounding them had already fallen, and there were only about 20 of them left. Moreover, it seemed that because Ah Huang was killing more ruthlessly, these crocodiles were somewhat suppressed. At this moment, they were surrounding them, but they did not attack. This gave Wu Wei and Ah Huang a chance to catch their breath. The corners of Wu Wei's mouth curled up. He was just feeling happy, but when he turned around and saw Ah Huang, he suddenly lost his happiness. He realized that although Ah Huang had killed many people, he had also suffered many injuries. There were several visible spots on his body. Even the leather armor on his body had a few cracks, and the fang knife in his hand had a few chips. Although the divine armament seal was a divine armament seal, it wasn't indestructible. It had durability. Wu Wei had just broken a spider ring and a tree spirit long blade not long ago. In this situation, Wu Wei felt that if they continued fighting, the divine armament talisman on Ah Huang would also be broken. That was a fine-grade divine armament seal, and it would cost at least a few dozen contribution points. Wu Wei really didn't want them to break. As long as they weren't destroyed, they could still be repaired with some money. Unfortunately, it was not up to Wu Wei to decide whether they would be beaten or not, and whether they would be crushed or not. The remaining elite monsters had no intention of leaving. They surrounded Wu Wei and the others. "No, I can't continue wasting time like this." Wu Wei had been in the Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance for almost 2 minutes, and he only had about 1 minute left. Ah Huang lasted a little longer, but it didn't last more than 5 minutes. Once this time was over, the Iron Bull stance would disappear, and they would be in danger. "We have to break out." Wu Wei picked up the light that had burst out from the ground, patted Ah Huang, and the rest turned to run. When Wu Wei and the others wanted to leave, the group of crocodiles didn't stop them. They immediately made way for them. However, just because they gave way to Wu Wei did not mean that they were letting him go. They were only afraid of Ah Huang's attacks and didn't dare to fight back. However, they didn't let Wu Wei and the others run away. The group of crocodiles followed them directly. They did not rush forward to attack, but followed from a distance, tightly following behind Wu Wei and the others. It was obvious that they were waiting for Wu Wei and the others to exhaust their strength before pouncing. Seeing this, Wu Wei's face turned dark. How could he be so smart? It wouldn't be so easy to escape. When it rained, it would rain. Wu Wei and Ah Huang did not run for long before they suddenly stepped on an empty trap and fell into the swamp. The eyes of the swamp crocodiles that were in hot pursuit glowed red when they saw this. The opportunity had come. The group of crocodiles had no intention of wasting this opportunity, and they pounced over with red eyes. However, none of them dared to attack Ah Huang. This group of runic monsters also knew that they should pick the soft persimmons and pinch them, so they all rushed towards Wu Wei. The first one bit at Wu Wei's neck, who had lost his center of gravity and his lower body had fallen into the swamp. Wu Wei's leg was bitten. Then, the second, third, and fourth crocodiles bit down on Wu Wei at the same time. They twisted their bodies and were about to use death roll to tear Wu Wei into pieces. At this moment, Wu Wei, who had been panicking just a moment ago, instantly calmed down. He sneered, "You took the bait, right? Then all of you can die." As he spoke, Wu Wei directly activated the spiritual energy version of the Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance. The spiritual energy version of the Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance was activated, and a yellow light gushed out of Wu Wei's body. At the same time, an incredible power also gushed out. At this moment, the 5 crocodiles that had bitten Wu Wei were in for a bad time. The powerful force caused them to bleed from their 7 orifices. At this moment, Wu Wei swept both his hands, and with a strength of 29.5, the heads of the 5 crocodiles were smashed in an instant. At the same time, he grabbed the remains of a crocodile and threw it out. 2 crocodiles with nearly 30 strength, could they still be called crocodiles? They were just 2 cannonballs. It directly knocked away the crocodiles that were pouncing over, and several crocodiles that were hit were killed on the spot. All of this happened in an instant. The whole process took less than a second. In just a second, Wu Wei's 30 points of spiritual energy had been completely exhausted, and all the strength in his body seemed to have been drawn away. His entire body went limp, and he lost all fighting strength. Fortunately, he didn't need to fight. Wu Wei launched a huge wave of attacks and severely injured the crocodiles. Ah Huang followed closely behind, raising the fang knife in its hand and killing the remaining crocodiles. He raised his knife and killed the few remaining crocodiles around Wu Wei, then chased after the rest with his knife. The remaining crocodile was frightened by Wu Wei and Ah Huang's explosive attack. He turned around and wanted to run, but the little elf suddenly exerted force. He used earth modification at full power and froze the crocodile closest to Wu Wei. Although it was only frozen for a second or two, it was enough at such a close distance. Ah Huang pounced over and swung the fang knife in his hand to cut off the head of a crocodile. Another crocodile on the side was so scared that it turned to run, but it was caught by Ah Huang and thrown onto another crocodile that had just broken free a few meters away. The fang knife in his hand was thrown out, and it pierced through the body of another crocodile. He rushed up to pick up the fang knife and killed the crocodiles that he had thrown out and hit. In an instant, Ah Huang had killed 4 crocodiles. But unfortunately, the last crocodile that the little elf controlled still managed to escape. In addition, there were 5 or 6 alligators that were further away. However, that was no longer important. After this wave, the remaining crocodile could not pose much of a threat to Wu Wei and the others. Wu Wei could be considered to have won this battle. After that, Wu Wei and Ah Huang simply cleaned up the light spots that had dropped on the ground. They ignored the corpses and the treasure chests that were close at hand. Instead, they retreated out of the crocodile swamp and retreated to a safe place. Wu Wei only had the time to check the team's condition after they reached a safe position. How should he put it, it was a tragic sight. The first was the equipment. Wu Wei and Ah Huang's equipment were all damaged to varying degrees. Wu Wei's tree spirit long blade was scrapped, spider armor was scrapped, And spider ring? Oh, this thing had already been scrapped. It could be said that Wu Wei didn't have a single divine armament seal on him. Ah Huang was in a slightly better state. The divine armament talisman wasn't scrapped yet, but apart from the goblin cloth shoes, the remaining 2 divine armament talismans' durability had exceeded 80%. With this level of damage, the cost of maintenance was very high. It was estimated that it would cost at least 20 to 30 contribution points. Looking at everyone's tattered clothes, Wu Wei couldn't help but sigh. Sigh, out of our entire team, only the little elf's mud golem heart is still intact. The little fairy is awesome. Wu Wei even complimented his own donkey. In the end, he felt that something was wrong when he did. Usually, when he praised it, this little guy's tail would immediately rise to the sky. After Wu Wei's praise, he suddenly realized that the little fairy didn't even raise her tail. Instead, she felt a little guilty. What happened? Is your mud golem heart also useless? Wu Wei's heart skipped a beat. He quickly opened the little elf's attribute panel. As expected, only the Oblivion Mage robe was left in the equipment section for the Divine Armament seal. There was no clay heart. This made Wu Wei's heart ache, but at the same time, he was also very confused. No, you didn't take this out to hit anyone, so how did it get scrapped? Wait, your attributes don't seem right. As he spoke, he suddenly realized that the little elf's attributes were not right. Second origin rune, Earth Fairy. Quality, exquisite quality, 3 pieces. First condition, 50,000/50,000, 50,000/50,000, 10,000/10,000, satisfied. Condition 2, exquisite quality Earth Attribute Energy Core, 1/20th, superior quality Earth Attribute Energy Core, 0/1. Condition 3:1 star in meditation, yet to be achieved. Level, 16, 78%. Spirit, 4.5 agility, 2.7 constitution, 1. Skills mastered, stone through touch, 1 star, earth escape, earth transformation, 1 star, earth nourishment, 1 star. Divine weapon rune, fallen magician's robe, fine, level 11. Chapter 81 to 81 Harvest, 1. 81 Harvest, 1. The little guy had leveled up by 1. His mind attribute had increased from 3.7 to 4.5, and his agility had increased from 2.2 to 2.7. He had also gained an additional point to his constitution. The attributes were not right. The little spirit's level up was 0.3 spirit and 0.1 agility. In other words, this little guy had an additional 0.5 spirit and 0.4 agility. In addition, the first condition of the little elf was also met. On the attribute panel, there was an additional skill, Earth Nourishment, 1 star. Just by looking at the attributes panel, Wu Wei knew that something had definitely happened to this little guy in the previous battle. He pulled the little fellow over and asked it. After promising that it would not be fierce, it told Wu Wei about the situation. It turned out that the little fellow didn't have enough spirit energy when Wu Wei and the others were fighting. When it saw that Wu Wei was in danger, it ate the mud man's heart in a hurry, and then its strength came back. He ate the heart of the mud man. Wu Wei was very surprised by the little fairy's answer. This was the first time he knew that the little guy had such a function. What did you eat? Can I have more? It was obvious that this was the first time the little fellow had eaten the divine armament seal, and it had eaten it in a hurry. Now that Wu Wei had asked, it was instantly stunned. It didn't seem to remember how it had just eaten. When Wu Wei offered to let it eat the fallen mage robe, the little guy directly refused. It expressed that it didn't want to eat such an ugly thing, and it didn't smell good. The little fairy could only eat the delicious divine weapon seal. As for how to define fragrant, Wu Wei tried to let the little guy describe it for a long time, but in the end, he could only give up. It couldn't be helped, this little fellow's vocabulary was too small. He repeated delicious and fragrant over and over again. As for how it tasted good? Why is it fragrant? It was sorry, but it couldn't. If you can't say it, then forget it. In that case, the extra spirit, agility, and constitution should be obtained by eating equipment. Moreover, the little guy also had an additional skill, earth nourishment, and it had reached 1 star along with turn earth into stone. In that case, this heart of a mud man wasn't wasted. This was something that Wu Wei was rather pleased with. Of course, there was a reason why he could be so calm. If it were not for the 20 or so fine-grade crocodiles they had killed in this wave and the 27 green dots of light in the rune book, Wu Wei would not have been able to be so calm. Thinking about the items in his book of runes, Wu Wei could not help but feel excited. When he was picking them up, he seemed to have seen quite a few good things. He felt that even if he didn't make a big profit from this, he wouldn't lose much. He was even a little impatient to open the light spot. However, after looking at his surroundings, Wu Wei finally felt that it would be more appropriate to drive back to the city. Wu Wei didn't go back to the dormitory to open the treasure chest immediately. Instead, after counting his losses, he held the rune book and started meditating. He absorbed spiritual qi to feed Ah Huang, recovering his and Ah Huang's condition. As for the fairy, this little fellow did not need Wu Wei's feeding. It had the passive skill earth nourishment. Previously, it could recover all its spirit qi within 2 hours by relying on its equipment. Now that this skill had become its own skill, and after it had reached 1 star, its Reiki recovery speed had greatly improved. In less than an hour, this little guy was full of spiritual energy. As for Wu Wei, it took him more than 2 hours to recover with Ah Huang. In terms of spiritual power, Wu Wei had only recovered less than 1/3 of it. However, Wu Wei didn't plan to fully recover. He had only used a second just now, and his entire body was still sore. Even if his spirit energy was fully recovered, he couldn't use it for another second, so there was no need for a full recovery. It's almost time, let's go in. After recovering, Wu Wei led Ah Huang and the little fairy deeper into the crocodile swamp. Returning to this place once again, Wu Wei seemed to be a lot more peaceful. The surviving high-quality crocodiles were scared out of their wits after their previous failure. They didn't even dare to approach Wu Wei and the others, let alone surround them again. Wu Wei and the rest easily arrived at the treasure chest and spirit herbs they had seen earlier. Wu Wei picked up the spirit grass. The gathering skill was quite all-purpose. It could be used on rune monsters and herbs. There were a total of 18 spiritual herbs in one plot, 3 of which were high quality, and 15 of which were fine quality. After he was done, Wu Wei asked the little fairy to open the treasure chest. The last time Wisp got a fang knife from the wooden treasure chest, Wu Wei believed that Wisp would not let him down this time. At the very least, he would get an item of the same level as the fang knife. The little fairy didn't let Wu Wei down this time, and she indeed got the same item as last time. A brand new fang blade. Rune divine weapon, fang blade. Level, 10. Usage requirement, level 10. Effect 1, increase user's strength by 1. Effect 2, passive effect. Able to break 50% of the armor and shield of all targets below level 20. Yes, it was the same as the one in Ah Huang's hand. Their attributes were all the same. Wu Wei looked at the knife and his entire body went numb. He didn't know whether to say that the little guy was lucky or lucky. Forget it. I'll just use a fang knife. I don't have a suitable weapon yet. With that, Wu Wei passed the intact fang knife to Ah Huang and took the one with a durability of over 80%. After that, Wu Wei led Ah Huang and the little fairy to search the depths of the swamp again. He found a few crocodile corpses that had not yet been refreshed. While it was still warm, Wu Wei collected 5 fine-grade hearts and fed them to the drooling little elf. After that, he confirmed that there was nothing else to be found. The rest of the high-quality crocodiles were hidden and he could not find them. Wu Wei could only bring Ah Huang and the others home. Let's go back and open the light spots. After that, Wu Wei brought Ah Huang back to Yuehua City. The Moonlight Token had a fixed teleport point. It couldn't teleport directly back to the city, but had to be at a specific place. There were 5 teleportation points in Yuehua City. One was at each of the 4 gates in the north, south, east, and west. The other one was not open to students. Wu Wei's teleportation point was at the east gate. This was also the teleportation point for most of the new students. At the same time, it was also the most frequently used teleportation point. Every time Wu Wei was teleported back, there would always be a few people teleporting back together with him. This time was no exception. Wu Wei had just teleported back when a few figures appeared beside him. Wu Wei subconsciously glanced at them, but before he could react, these guys had already pounced over. "Brother Wu. It's you, Brother Wu. That's great. We meet again, Brother Wu. Brother Wu, you have to stand up for us." As they spoke, they hung onto Wu Wei's body like koalas. The few shameless people in front of him were the ones from Team 8566. At this moment, they were in a miserable state. The Arrow Man's eyes darkened. A large patch of Blondie's beautiful poop yellow hair was pulled out. The big guy's head was full of bumps, and the only one who was in better shape was the Captain Zhou Tian. However, there were also several holes in his robe. "Why are you 4 here? Why are you in Yuehua City? And what's up with your clothes?" Before Wu Wei could finish his sentence, another ray of light shone from the side. One by one, the angry students were teleported over. Before Wu Wei could react to what was happening, the 4 of them jumped up. "Quickly run. Brother Wu, let's keep in touch next time." Whoosh, very quickly, in just a moment, these 4 guys ran out. Before he ran, he didn't forget to shout at the students who had just been teleported over. "Dear students, this has nothing to do with my big brother. If you have the ability, come and chase us." It was fine if they didn't shout, but the moment they did, Wu Wei was immediately surrounded by a group of angry students. "You're their big brother." Chapter 82-82 for High Quality Talisman Rune. 82 for High Quality Talisman Rune. He looked at the students who had surrounded him and were rolling up their sleeves as if they were going to teach him a lesson. Wu Wei's face was full of mother of asterisker. If he didn't have a general understanding of the 4 bastards, Wu Wei would have thought that they had shouted the last sentence on purpose so that he could take the bullet. "Which one? Let go of my brother Wu. Yes, this matter has nothing to do with him. If there's anything, just come at us." Wu Wei was about to explain when the 4 members of Team 8566 saw that Wu Wei was surrounded and became anxious. The 4 who were about to escape immediately turned around. He looked at the 8566 team who had returned to him and opened their arms to protect him. What could Wu Wei say at this moment? Well, he felt that these guys might as well not have come back. The other party had initially suspected that Wu Wei was just trying to block the bullet, but when they saw that the 4 of them were so loyal, they looked at Wu Wei with a dangerous gaze. Can I say a few words?" "Say my ass, beat him up." Before Wu Wei could finish his sentence, the group of students surrounded him in excitement. In the face of the agitated students, 8566 and the other 3 seemed to be in the wrong. They had no intention of fighting back and just protected Wu Wei in the middle. "What are you doing? What was he doing? What are you all doing?" Just as they were about to start a fight, the teacher at the side finally came over. As a result, a group of dozens of people were taken to the nearby security room for questioning. Wu Wei only knew what was going on after he followed them to the security room. To put it simply, The four of them went to the Montenegro forest today and had to line up for a few hours before they finally managed to squeeze in. In the end, there were people everywhere. The four of them had been busy for a whole day, but they had not managed to find any herbs or monsters. In their last moment of desperation, they used an item to lure some monsters to kill them. In the end, they accidentally attracted a group of tiger-skin bees, and the dozens of students around them were also unlucky. The angry students then grabbed them and gave them a good beating. After Wu Wei understood the entire situation, he wasn't too surprised by the stupid actions of this group of people. He was mainly curious as to what item they had used to lure the monsters. Not long after that, the teacher confirmed that this matter had nothing to do with him and asked him to leave. The rest of the students, whether it was the ones who surrounded them at the end, or 8,566 and the others, were all left behind to be criticized and educated. After coming out of the security room, Wu Wei did not return to the dormitory immediately. Instead, he went to logistics department too. The main reason he came to this place was that Wu Wei wanted to exchange some of his earnings for contribution points. Therefore, instead of running back to the dormitory and then coming to logistics department too, Wu Wei might as well open the dot of light in logistics department too. As for whether it was a bad thing to open up the light spot in front of the people of the logistics department too, this was not a problem. Due to the limited storage space of the rune book, the size of the light spot that was not opened was very different from the item that was opened. Many students would save the light spot for opening it. That was why Logistics Department 2 had a personal lounge for students to use their light spots. You could even call the staff to exchange unnecessary items for contribution points. One resting room, please. The moment Wu Wei arrived at Logistics Department 2, he was given a lounge. After entering the resting room, Wu Wei released little yellow and poured out the 27 green dots. The 20 to 30 green dots of light made the color of the entire lounge shift to a neutral color, which looked a little strange. However, no divine talisman master would find it strange to enter this room. They would only feel happy. Wu Wei was the same. He squinted his eyes and indulged in the light spots for a while before rolling up his sleeves and starting to work. At the same time, golden finger notifications started appearing on his screen. You've activated the green light and received * high quality swamp crocodile heart. 18. You've turned on the green light. You've received a piece of fine swamp crocodile skin X5. You've activated the green dot of light and received a divine weapon talisman water fish quiver. You've activated the green dot of light. You've received divine weapon seal crocodile bone arrow X5. You've activated the green dot of light and obtained the divine weapon talisman water disaster blade. You've activated the green dot of light and obtained the god weapon talisman ferocious crocodile spear. There were 27 green dots, 23 of which were materials. However, there were 4 divine armament talismans, and they all seemed pretty good. Divine armament seal, Shui use quivers. Rarity, fine. Equipment requirement, level 18. Effect 1, increases the wearer's agility by 2 points. Effect 2, able to hold 500 arrows and slowly restore arrow durability. Effect 3, a water fish arrow is automatically generated every day, the arrow has both healing and killing effects. Divine armament seal, crocodile bone arrow. Usage requirement, fine grade longbow. Effect 1, armor piercing 1 star, able to penetrate the defense of targets below level 21. Effect 2, double damage, able to shoot twice the attack power. Effect 3, explosion, when hit, the enemy's body will explode, dealing secondary damage. PS, each arrow can only be used once. Divine weapon seal, water blade. Usage requirements, close combat profession, level 18. Effect 1, increases the wearer's strength and constitution by 2 points. Effect 2, attacks carry water type cutting damage, requires the user's spiritual chi or spiritual energy. Effect 3, additional skill, water blade. Divine armament seal, vicious crocodile spear. Equipment requirements, melee profession, grasp of gun type runes or skills, level 18. Effect 1, increases the wearer's strength and agility by 2 points. Effect 2, additional skill vicious crocodile spear. Effect 3, inscribing skill elite summon mud swamp crocodile, once a day. Looking at the attributes of the 4 divine armament talismans in front of him, each of them was quite good. Especially the vicious crocodile spear, which was the only high-quality divine weapon seal that Wu Wei had seen that had 2 skills. One was supplementary, and the other was inscribing. The effects were quite good. It also increases the strength and agility of the wearer by 2 points. These were the attributes that only a fine-grade rune beast at level 10 could have. It was a pity that Wu Wei could not use this divine soldier seal. Ah Huang didn't know how to use a gun, and Wu Wei didn't have the time to do so. He didn't want to waste time on it. For now, just the saber alone was enough for Wu Wei and the others to practice. Therefore, after looking at the attributes of the 4 divine armament seals, Wu Wei made a decision in his heart. After that, Wu Wei called the staff from the logistics department and sold the vicious crocodile gun and the 5 pieces of crocodile skin. Just the normal grade wild boar knife, a divine weapon seal with a trashy skill like pig slaughtering knife, could be sold for 2 to 3 contribution points. The vicious crocodile spear was a fine grade item, and the price of a divine weapon seal with 2 skills was even more outrageous. The price was directly increased by 50 times. The logistics department bought the knife for 150 contribution points. The 5 pieces of fine quality crocodile skin were also sold for a high price of 10 contribution points. After this wave, along with Wu Wei's original contribution points, he now had 175 contribution points. At this moment, Wu Wei should have felt a sense of accomplishment. However, when he thought about how it was only enough for a month's property and maintenance fees, Wu Wei was a little unhappy. Especially when he thought about how the next month was coming, Wu Wei felt even more dizzy. Can this be considered as me becoming a house slave in advance? Sigh, go pay the money. Shaking his head, Wu Wei brought the contribution points he had just earned to the dormitory area and reported his room number to the lady in charge of the dormitory. He planned to pay for a month's time, but the other party checked it. B2B dormitory, right? Pay the property and maintenance fees for your dormitory. Handed it over. Wu Wei was stunned for a moment, then he suddenly came to his senses. It should be Little Black. This brother, he really paid for property management. Oh. Wu Wei scratched his head. Then I'll pay next month's. She'll pay next month too. What about the month after that? She did, too. She's been paying for an entire year. Contribution points. Wu Wei was dumbfounded. Where did he get so many contribution points? She didn't give any contribution points. She used a necklace to pay off her debt. Chapter 83 to 83 Talisman Formation Basics. 83 Talisman Formation Basics. When the dormitory manager said that Black had used a necklace to pay for the property and maintenance of their dormitory for the next year, an image automatically appeared in Wu Wei's mind. It was the scene of Little Black taking out her precious necklace, which might even be an ancestral necklace, reluctantly but resolutely. At that moment, Wu Wei felt his heart burning. Little Black's brother had given him elixirs and refined medicine dregs. In order to help him pay for the property and maintenance fees, he had even taken out his heirloom necklace. This brother. That was really unspeakable. Wu Wei returned to the dormitory with an excited and complicated heart. He knocked on the door of the alchemy room. Then, she patted Little Black's shoulder and said with slightly red eyes, "Being brothers is in my heart." With that, he left without waiting for Wu Wei's reply. At this moment, Wu Wei's blood was boiling. He wanted to work hard, train, become stronger, and earn more contributions. Today, his brother had sold his best necklace for him. It might even be his only necklace. Wu Wei swore that he would definitely return her a better one in the future, one that she had never worn before. Wu Wei started a crazy training session in the training room. At the same time, Blackie, who was in the alchemy room, was a little dazed from the beginning to the end. She didn't know what had happened to Wu Wei all of a sudden. She didn't think too much about it and turned back to the alchemy room. She wanted to sit down and refine pills, but she felt that her neck was empty and her head was also empty. She was not used to it. So, Little Black walked to a cabinet in the alchemy room and opened the unlocked cabinet. As the cabinet was opened, it immediately glowed with a precious light. On both sides of the cabinet, 3 rows of necklaces were neatly hung on one side, and 5 rows of rings were neatly placed on the other. Fortunately, Wu Wei was not here. If he were here, he would probably be blinded by these things. Be it the rings or necklaces, none of them were below fine quality. A small portion of them were fine quality, most of them were superior quality, and there were even 1 or 2 rare quality ones. Little Blackie grabbed a superior necklace and 2 superior rings and put them on. Feeling the power of the ring, she returned to the alchemy furnace and continued to work hard. Well, Wu Wei thought that Little Black had bought the only necklace to help him pay the property management and maintenance fees. Little did he know that Little Black was a rich woman that he could not imagine at the moment, and that she had a car full of the same necklace. At this time, he was not practicing the yellow turban iron bull stance in the training room. It was mainly because his yellow turban iron bull stance was already at 2 stars. He was still a little far from 3 stars. Furthermore, Wu Wei's 2-star rating was already enough. There was no need to continue consuming it. Compared to the yellow turban iron bull stance, Wu Wei felt that archery was more urgent. Wu Wei had no intention of learning archery. Because he had learned it himself, his talent was really not that great. He had been shooting for a week and still couldn't hit the target. Wu Wei felt that his archery skills were hopeless. However, after getting his hands on the crocodile tooth bow, water fish quiver, and crocodile bone arrow, Wu Wei suddenly felt that his archery skills might be able to save him. On his way back, Wu Wei had specially bought 100 arrows for training. As for the venue, his 6,000 square meter dormitory had an archery training ground. At this time, Wu Wei could probably understand the benefits of this dormitory. There were all kinds of cultivation and training grounds, as long as you wanted it. However, such a good location, coupled with Wu Wei's archery skills, was a waste. Wu Wei had originally thought that his lack of talent in archery was due to his poor physical fitness. Currently, he was extremely strong in all aspects. His strength, vitality, and spirit had all broken through 4 points. Although his agility was not as good, it was still 3.3 with the enhancement of his equipment. With such physical fitness, Wu Wei felt that it should be easy to pick up archery. However, after he actually tried it, Wu Wei realized that he had thought too simply. His good physical fitness had indeed allowed Wu Wei to learn the basics faster, but it was only by a little. He wasn't able to pick up his archery skills quickly. This Wu Wei was somewhat unconvinced. Why is the efficiency so low? Could it be because he didn't take his medicine? Wu Wei took a spoonful of the fine-grade tree spirit dregs hesitantly. After taking a sip, he immediately realized that the effects were amazing. The efficiency had increased a lot. The accuracy of his arrows had also improved. Wu Wei thought for a moment and felt that it should be the side effects of the medicine dregs. The pain from the side effects of the medicine dregs made Wu Wei more focused, which resulted in better results. It was a bit similar to a spine. Although Wu Wei didn't know if his deduction was correct, it was a fact that eating the tree spirit herb dregs could increase his cultivation efficiency. Hence, Wu Wei followed this method. Once he got the hang of it, Wu Wei trained for a few hours. He used the 100 arrows repeatedly, and Wu Wei didn't even know how many arrows he had shot. In short, he practiced until all 100 arrows were useless before he stopped. Then, he called the little fairy over and started to practice the yellow turban iron bull post and the runic array foundation. There was nothing much to say about the training of the yellow turban iron bull stake. Step by step, he pushed forward bit by bit. The only thing that could be said was that Wu Wei felt that the effect of fine medicine dregs had decreased after he became a 2-star alchemist. However, it could still be maintained at around 50 proficiency points for a day. At this rate, Wu Wei would need about 200 days to reach 3-star. As for the talisman formation basics, Wu Wei felt that he was on the right track. He read faster and faster. This was normal. Under normal circumstances, you might not remember a TV or a book you watched, but as long as you read it again, you could roughly remember the content. Wu Wei was in a similar situation. The only difference was that every time Wu Wei read a book, his memory of the contents of the book would deepen. In fact, Wu Wei had already roughly memorized the contents of Talisman Formation Basics by the second time he read it. After that, Wu Wei only used one night to finish reading Talisman Formation Basics. To Wu Wei's surprise, the number that appeared in front of his eyes after he read it for the third time was not 3/100, but 75/100. While this left Wu Wei dumbfounded, it also made him realize something. It was possible that the proficiency of this type of knowledge was different from the proficiency of a skill. Perhaps he didn't have to read them over and over again. As long as he met the requirements, his proficiency could increase unreasonably. In order to confirm his suspicion, Wu Wei even gave up on farming monsters in the crocodile swamp, which was a rare occurrence. Instead, he spent all his time reading Talisman Formation Basics. He spent another day reading the Talisman Formation Basics once more to further deepen his memory. After Wu Wei confirmed that he could recall the contents of the book without the help of the book, a golden finger prompt appeared in front of him. You've memorized the Talisman Formation Basics. You've unlocked the basic runic magic circle analysis conditions. You can analyze runic magic circles: bewilderment magic circle, fire magic circle, water magic circle, earth magic circle, gold magic circle, and wood magic circle. 6 basic runic matrices appeared before Wu Wei. Looking at the 6 runic matrices, Wu Wei was a little dumbfounded. He could not understand how he had managed to unlock these 6 basic matrices. To be exact, he didn't know how the last few came about. He knew about bewilderment arrays because the runic array technique basics had a detailed introduction. This was also his homework for the runic array technique: try to set up a bewilderment array. As for metal, wood, water, fire, and earth, Wu Wei's knowledge might be shallow, as he could not find them in the Talisman Formation Basics. Therefore, Wu Wei subconsciously ignored the last 5 formations and focused his attention on the Soul Confusion formation. As he focused his gaze, the information regarding the bewitching array gushed into Wu Wei's mind. Chapter 84-84 Did you guys come in upside down? Down. 84 Did you guys come in upside down? Down. The so-called runes formation. In fact, it was a method to change the environment of a certain area to achieve its goal by using special materials to attract spiritual energy. This was the first page of the basics of runic magic. Wu Wei had not felt anything when he read this line of words before, but after reading it today, he felt that it was a very accurate summary. The knowledge that the golden finger had sent to his head before. Wu Wei originally thought that it was knowledge on how to set up a maze array, but after studying it carefully, he realized that it was a skill that he had learned. No, it was not the knowledge of how to set up the maze array. It was the knowledge of how the maze array was formed and how it worked. What was the difference between the two? The former was equivalent to someone giving you a calculator and teaching you how to use the calculator to calculate. The latter would start by teaching you how to make a calculator. You would first understand the principles behind the calculator, learn how to make it, and understand the knowledge of the formulas. Then, you would be asked to make the calculator and calculate the results. It seemed ridiculous, and the difficulty was also on the level of persuasion, but the situation was more or less the same. Wu Wei only took a glance and his head started to throb. At this moment, Wu Wei had a vague idea of the difference between this kind of knowledge type skill and the combat skill in the gold finger. Combat skills were trained, while knowledge skills were learned. Based on this situation, Wu Wei felt that the golden finger that allowed him to do it would not be any easier than others. It might even be more difficult. Realizing this, Wu Wei heaved a sigh of relief. He, who had already been tormented for 2 days and 1 night, could no longer bear it and fell into a deep sleep. By the time Wu Wei woke up, it was already the 3rd day he had been grinding high-quality crocodiles. And he was no longer in the training ground, but in his room. "You're awake." As soon as he opened his eyes, a sign was extended to him in surprise. Before Wu Wei could finish reading, he flipped the board. "I've made you some medicinal porridge. Eat it while it's hot." Immediately after, a large bowl of steaming and even bubbling medicinal congee was handed over. Wu Wei's face turned pale as he looked at the purple congee. Previously, Black's cooking only had a poor taste, but now, even the appearance and fragrance were not good, right? Why did the scene look so much like she wanted him, the eldest son, to take medicine? Despite feeling bitter in his heart and his face pale, Wu Wei still took the congee, thanked him, and ate it in big mouthfuls. That smell, how to put it, was like rotten fish. It was hard to describe. However, as he ate, Wu Wei suddenly felt that something was wrong. As he took a bite, Wu Wei suddenly felt his body warm up. Wu Wei subconsciously glanced at the porridge in his hand. Name: Little Black's medicinal porridge. Description: this is a magically modified congee from the goblin's great tonic pill. Other than the fact that it tastes terrible and you may lose your sense of taste for a few hours after eating it, it's quite good in other aspects. It can permanently increase the user's various attributes. Requires large consumption. When Wu Wei saw this, he no longer felt that the porridge was unpalatable. He wanted to refill the bowl after eating, and even summoned Ah Huang and the little fairy to eat together. Ah Huang was obedient. It pinched its nose and ate it. But the little fairy didn't want to. It expressed that it was determined not to eat the stinky thing. In order to show its resistance, it almost flipped the entire pot of porridge. After failing to resist and being fed a mouthful by Wu Wei, the little elf burst into tears. At the same time, she labeled Maze Array as a bad person. This made Little Black look especially innocent and aggrieved. It was clearly Wu Wei who forced it down, so why was she the bad person? But so be it if he was a bad person. Black felt that these were not important. What was important was that the porridge today finally confirmed one thing. That was Wu Wei's taste. Previously, when she had seen Wu Wei taking medicine dregs, she had vaguely felt that Wu Wei's taste might be different from ordinary people. He had tried it today, and Wu Wei had eaten 3 bowls of such unpalatable congee. This taste was indeed different from others. In that case, she would have to work hard to make more dishes and pills that were more in line with Wu Wei's taste. In that instant, her mind was filled with endless possibilities. Dried bats with pig's brain soup, corpse fluid with bitter melon juice. The menus and pill recipes made Little Black tremble. Her shiver sent a chill down Wu Wei's spine for no reason. Wu Wei had a bad feeling about this, but he didn't care. Especially when he saw that his agility had increased by 0.1, reaching 1.4, his mind was filled with nothing but rice. He immediately packed up all the medicinal congee he had yet to finish. Little Black was even more determined to turn the menu in her mind into reality. On Wu Wei's side, he had just finished a sumptuous breakfast. Just as he was about to go out and farm monsters, his phone suddenly rang. Wu Wei picked up his phone and took a look. It was a message from an unfamiliar number. Wu Wei's pupils contracted when he opened it, and all the pores on his body stood on end. There was only one sentence in the message: "We know your secret." In that instant, Wu Wei immediately thought of Team 8322 and the Spider Jade pendant. Wu Wei had been very nervous about this matter. Wu Wei panicked when he saw the message. Had he really been exposed? What should he do next? Should he report this to Yuehua City? No, that's not right. After a moment of panic, Wu Wei quickly calmed down. I can't be sure that the message was sent by the group that killed Team 8322. It could also be a prank. Besides, even if it's really from that group of people, I can't panic. Wu Wei calmed down and said, let's assume that they really sent this message. What's their purpose in sending this message? A death announcement? No, it shouldn't be. If there was really a conspiracy behind the death of Team 8322, there must be a mastermind behind it. What they were plotting must not be a small matter. They wouldn't be so small as to make a death announcement. So, even if the message was really sent by them, the only reasonable explanation is that they might have really found out that there was something wrong with the Spider Jade, but they weren't sure if it was because of me. Maybe they just think I'm a little suspicious because I've touched the jade before. They might have even sent a similar message to everyone who has touched the jade before. This kind of text message is actually like a bamboo pole beating grass. The purpose is to scare the snake. So, I can't panic. Ignore it and don't report it to the school. Just treat this message as garbage and ignore it. Wu Wei quickly ran through all these thoughts in his mind. It took a lot of effort to calm herself down and convince herself to treat it as if she had not seen the message. At this moment, the second message came. We've arrived. Prepare to welcome us. Wu Wei stood up in shock when he saw the message. It can't be, right? Had he really been exposed? Was there anyone as arrogant as the mastermind? He actually dared to come to his dormitory in broad daylight. This was the B-class dormitory area. Didn't they know how terrifying the security was? What should I do now? At this moment, Wu Wei admitted that he was really panicking. It wasn't that he was timid, but this time, he might be facing an organization that was strong enough to go against the entire Yuehua city. However, Wu Wei knew that panicking would not solve the problem. He began to force himself to calm down. Just as the force was starting to work, the brooch-type communication device on his chest suddenly lit up, and Du Bai's voice rang out. Master, there's a group of guests outside. They say they're your friends. They. Before he could finish, Blondie's voice came from the brooch. Brother Wu, did you see the message I sent you? You're not a friend at all. You didn't even tell us that you were staying in such a good dormitory. We're here as guests, come and welcome us. Ka. Just as the yellow-haired thug finished speaking, he heard the sound of something shattering. Then, Wu Wei only used 2 minutes to rush from the 3rd floor to the 1st floor. Looking at the 4 fellows in front of him, Wu Wei's eyes were filled with killing intent. He originally wanted to attack them directly, but in the end, he decided to follow the procedure. Did you guys do a handstand just now? Handstand? What do you mean handstand? I'm sorry. According to the old house rules, if a friend didn't come in while standing upside down, he must be beaten up to get rid of bad luck. After that, Wu Wei grabbed the 4 members of Team 8566 and gave them a good beating. Chapter 85-85 Learning the Maze Formation. 85 Learning the Maze Formation. Yuehua City, in the dormitory. After Wu Wei beat up 8566 and the other 2, the anger in his heart finally dissipated a little. He found a place to sit down and catch his breath. As for 8566 and the others, not only were they not angry after being beaten up for no reason, they even ran over to ask Wu Wei if it was enough after seeing him stop. Do you want a few more? Well, they didn't think that Wu Wei was beating them up on purpose. On the contrary, they really felt that they had accidentally violated a taboo in Wu Wei's hometown. When they asked this, Wu Wei, who had lost his temper, immediately felt embarrassed. He could only rub his head and change the topic. How did you guys make such a big scene in the Montenegro forest last time? What is that prop? Oh, you mean that? Here, this is it. We got this from the secret realm in the Dryad forest. With that, he successfully changed the topic. Zhou Tian took out something from the rune book and handed it to Wu Wei. Wu Wei's eyes narrowed as he sized up the thing in front of him. It was a horn, a green horn that looked like it was asking for a beating. While Wu Wei was sizing up this thing, its attributes appeared in front of him. Rune tool, taunting horn. Level, 20. Usage requirements, none. Effect, taunting broadcast, remaining uses, 19 times, effective on level 20, fine grade and below rune monsters within a 500-meter radius. After the horn is blown, the rune monsters within the range will madly attack the target who has blown the horn. Duration, 120 minutes. PS, killing runic monsters attracted by the loudspeaker will give you a certain amount of experience points, but the drop rate will be reduced to a certain extent. PS, please be careful when you use it because it will speed up the respawn of the rune monsters and even change their respawn rate. It may bring you unexpected things at some point in time. This thing was very interesting. Looking at the attributes, Wu Wei's eyes narrowed. He had a bold idea. Thus, Wu Wei raised his head and looked at the four members of Team 8566. Do you want to go and farm some monsters? Ha! The four of them in 8566 were a little confused. They were here as guests. Did Brother Wu not welcome them? It's very exciting. Wu Wei continued to tempt him. The four of them immediately got excited. A few minutes later, Wu Wei led the entire 8566 team out of the city and headed straight for the crocodile swamp. Along the way, the four of them kept thinking about the exciting scene they had with Wu Wei in the forest of tree spirits. They were looking forward to an exciting and intense battle, and then they came to Crocodile Swamp. And then they started playing with mud. In the middle of the Gator Swamp's inner circle, about 1,000 meters away from the Gator King. Under Wu Wei's command, the 8566 team took their weapons and piled up the mud in the swamp to form a mud wall. No, Brother Wu, is this the excitement you were talking about? This isn't the excitement you're talking about. Brother Wu, I feel like you're playing with us. Blondie, the archer, and Big Guy stopped what they were doing and looked at Wu Wei. Zhou Tian, who was at the side, felt that he should not fall behind as the team leader, so he joined in the attack on Wu Wei. That's right, Brother Wu. We're no longer 4 or 5-year-old kids. We don't like to play with mud. In the end, the moment he opened his mouth, everyone fell silent. In front of him was a small, exquisite castle made of mud that this guy had just built. Wu Wei's mouth twitched. He walked over and crushed the small castle with one foot. At this moment, he tore away the fake kindness he had just shown. He took out his fang knife, clapped his hands, and looked at the four of them with a ferocious expression. What are you guys doing? Do you want to do it or not? Under the persuasion of Wei Nishan, Team 8566 started to play in the mud happily. They played for a few hours. In these few hours, although Wu Wei did not play with the mud himself, he was involved in the entire process. Of course, Wu Wei wasn't so bored as to bring them over to play with mud. What Wu Wei really wanted to do was to set up a defensive structure. With the ferry around, even mud could become hard stone. Soon, a 5-meter-tall stone defense platform was built. In addition to the stone defense platform, Wu Wei also got 8566 to erect stone pillars. There were a total of 36 of them, all of different heights and lengths, arranged in a special, mysterious way. After the pillars were formed, Wu Wei placed 10 talismans on each pillar and 100 talismans on the last pillar. In total, he placed 450 talismans. After placing all the talismans, Wu Wei stretched out his hand and placed it on the pillar that he had placed the 100 talismans on. Spirit Qi was released. Then, something that left the 8,566 team dumbfounded happened. The 36 pillars lit up one by one. When all 36 pillars lit up, all the light was instantly extinguished. At this moment, Wu Wei's eyes lit up. Success. His attributes panel had changed. There was an additional page for rune formation skills. There were only 2 skills on this page. Runes Formation Basics, 1/6. Maze Formation, 1/100, Low Level Formation, Maze Formation. It can affect the 5 senses of any existence that enters the array's range, causing them to be in a daze and unable to find the right direction. When spirit exceeds 10 points, the user will be immune to the effects of the formation. When spirit exceeds 5 points, the effect of the formation can be reduced. Looking at his own statistics board, Wu Wei's lips curled up in satisfaction. Didn't you guys want some excitement? Here comes the exciting part. As he spoke, Wu Wei passed the taunting loudspeaker to the blondie and patted his body with spiritual energy. Then he said, go to that place and blow it. The blondie took the horn and ran to the designated place excitedly. He took out the horn and blew it. And then, the excitement really came. The location Wu Wei had chosen was very particular. The yellow-haired guy blew directly into the depths of the crocodile orchid ball. As he blew, a small part of the orchid ball was covered. As a result, hundreds of red-eyed crocodiles pounced on Blondie. Although not all of these crocodiles were elite grade, even the normal crocodiles were level 15, high quality. It was very fierce, all right. The yellow-haired man had just passed level 11. Although he had earned a lot from the tree spirit's secret realm and the second source was an exquisite quality rune, he might not be able to kill one normal crocodile, let alone hundreds. If one was surrounded by them, they would instantly die without a corpse. This was too exciting. The yellow-haired man turned around and ran with all his might, the kind of running that he hated his parents for not having 2 more legs. This fellow's speed was pretty good. With the addition of his equipment, he should have 3 to 4 points, which was 8,566 points, even faster than Wu Wei. However, it was still slightly inferior to the 3.9 elite crocodile. Furthermore, this was not even a flat ground, but a swamp, which further affected the blondie's performance. Even though he had used the hound's body, he still couldn't shake off the crocodile. The yellow-haired man was about to be caught by the crocodile. The 8,566 team was so nervous that they wanted to switch with the yellow-haired guy. The next second, they suddenly realized that the crocodile behind the yellow-haired guy had fallen behind. No, he didn't fall behind, he was confused. After they stepped into the range of the stone pillar, their speed suddenly slowed down, and their direction was also messed up. They just circled around the stone pillar, but they didn't expect the yellow-haired beast to go straight for the high platform. This scene stunned the 8,566 team. At this moment, Wu Wei put on a nonchalant front. It's just a very simple runic formation. Stop looking and seize the opportunity to fight. As he spoke, Wu Wei took out the crocodile tooth bow, and while the archer drooled, he shot at the crocodile that was still in the formation. An arrow was shot. A crocodile's eye exploded 100 meters away. The archer was dumbfounded and couldn't help but look at him with respect. Brother Wu was indeed Brother Wu. Even he didn't have such archery skills. What he didn't know was that Wu Wei was scratching his head over his own arrow. Wu Wei's archery skills had improved after a night of practice, but it was only average. Not to mention hitting the opponent within 100 meters, even within 50 meters, he might not be able to hit 100%. The arrow he had shot just now had been a lucky hit. He had not been aiming for the crocodile. However, this result did not seem too bad. This was because after the arrow hit its target, a line of words appeared before Wu Wei's eyes. Another skill prerequisite had appeared. Chapter 86 to 86 Frantically Upgrading Skills. 86 Frantically Upgrading Skills. How exciting! After Blondie, who had just run away and had one less leg than his parents, returned to the high platform, he had completely forgotten about his fear. His face was flushed and he looked very satisfied. The archer pouted, "You almost peed your pants, right? Next time, it's my turn. I'm pretty fast too, and I'm braver than you, so I promise I won't pee my pants. My ass. I'm not afraid. No, you can return it to me next time. You think you're not afraid just because you say so? Why do I not believe it? Do you dare to take off your pants to see if they're dry or wet? I'll take it off," the yellow-haired man said as he put his hand on his belt. Seeing that the plot was about to be stopped, Wu Wei quickly shouted, "All of you shut up and focus on farming monsters." His words were quite useful to the 8566 team, and the two guys shut up. However, their eyes were fixed on the taunting horn, and they were eager to get into action. Not only Blondie and the archer, even Big Guy and Zhou Tian had similar thoughts. Wu Wei shook his head. If it wasn't for the fact that this item could only be used 19 times, he wouldn't have brought this group of people to farm monsters. He was addicted to being a vegetable, and his mind was full of fancy operations. If he brought them along, he would have to be on guard against them when they suddenly wanted to screw him over. Next, we have to keep a close eye on them and not let them be too wild. After silently making up his mind, Wu Wei focused his attention on the wave of monsters that had been lured over by the taunting horn. There were 20 elite monsters and dozens of normal crocodiles. In total, there should be more than 100 of them, and they had all entered the range of the lost array. The effects of the maze formation were pretty good. No matter if it was the elite swamp crocodile or the normal swamp crocodile, their spirit did not exceed 5, so after entering the maze formation's range, they lost their way and started running around. Although there were some who ran out occasionally, they were quickly attracted back in by the effect of the taunting horn. Such a monster was undoubtedly an excellent living target. Wu Wei picked up the crocodile fangbao and started to increase its skill proficiency. After the proficiency of his archery skill came out, Wu Wei realized that it was the easiest skill to gain proficiency of all the skills he had encountered so far. Other skills could be obtained in days or months, but this skill was considered long even if it was obtained in hours. When Wu Wei unlocked the skill previously, he had thought that he would have to kill a target to increase his proficiency. But after he tried it, Wu Wei realized something. This skill was not as outstanding as Wu Wei's. As long as he could hit the target, not 3 or more times, then the proficiency could continue to increase. Every arrow had a fixed proficiency point. This was too simple. After all, the maze was filled with crocodiles that had lost their way. They were close, large in size, and numerous. Wu Wei didn't even need to aim. As long as he dared to draw his bow, as long as he didn't aim at the sky, he could hit his target with every arrow. Hence, Wu Wei began to shoot madly harvesting proficiency points. With such a harvest, Wu Wei quickly completed 100/100. As this condition was fulfilled, a line of words appeared before Wu Wei's eyes. "You've learned basic archery." As soon as this line of words appeared, a new skill appeared in Wu Wei's attributes. At the same time, some bow and arrow techniques appeared in Wu Wei's mind. Moreover, Wu Wei suddenly felt that his compatibility with the crocodile fang bow had increased. He was even more comfortable with this bow now. It was as if Wu Wei had become an expert in archery. At the same time, Wu Wei saw that there was a column behind basic archery, which read, 0/500. In other words, this skill could still be upgraded. This made Wu Wei even more motivated. He picked up his bow and prepared to continue shooting madly, but the archer couldn't hold back anymore. "Brother Wu, you can't do this." Well, Wu Wei's first arrow had caused the archer to sigh in admiration. He felt that Brother Wu was amazing in everything. However, as Wu Wei got to work, he quickly realized that Wu Wei's archery skills were not as good as he had thought. He could even be considered a newbie. When he used the public arrow, he was full of flaws, and he also madly attacked, which made the archer extremely uncomfortable. Especially when he saw that Wu Wei didn't care about the good bow in his hands at all, the archer really couldn't take it anymore. After holding it in for a while, the archer couldn't bear it anymore when he saw Wu Wei trampling on the crocodile fang bow again. "Brother Wu, if you want to learn archery, you can't be so rash. You need to learn it systematically. You won't have any effect like this. If you don't mind, I can teach you how to use a bow." Although Wu Wei wanted to say no, the arrow man didn't give him a chance to refuse. "Don't be too rash when drawing the bow. You have to look at the target gently while drawing the bow. Stay calm and focused. Let's go." As he spoke, the archer slowly drew his bow and shot an arrow, accurately hitting one of the crocodile's eyes. "Come on, Brother Wu, try shooting at that eye." "Oh." Wu Wei was quite cooperative, copying the archer's posture as he knocked an arrow. "Is that so?" An arrow was shot out, but it missed and hit the crocodile's mouth. This was already a surprise to the archer. When Wu Wei attacked, he didn't even think that Wu Wei would be able to hit the crocodile. What surprised him even more was that Wu Wei's eyes instantly lit up after he shot the arrow. They immediately stuck close to him. "I didn't expect you to be so good at archery and teaching as well. I can feel that my archery has improved a lot. I think you can be my archery teacher." That's right, Wu Wei saw that his arrow's proficiency had increased by 2 points. He estimated that some of it was a hit, and some of it was guided by the archer. Realizing that he could use this method to gain proficiency, how could Wu Wei let the archer go? He grabbed him and gave him a round of praise. The simple-minded archer was quickly praised by Wu Wei to the heavens, and he happily taught Wu Wei archery. The archer was a divine talisman archer, and his major in the academy was archery. Although he was only a student, teaching Wu Wei, who had no foundation, was a piece of cake. After Wu Wei's repeated calls of archery teacher, the lost archer had taught Wu Wei many techniques. Aiming skills, rapid-fire skills, and even the spirit chi arrow skills that he had not comprehended were all shared with Wu Wei. The archer was really sincere. In the next 5 waves of monsters, he taught all his skills to Wu Wei. On Wu Wei's side, under the guidance of the archer, the basic archery skill that he had just learned was improving at an unbelievable speed. Within a day's time, they had completed all of them. 100/100, 500/500, 1500/1500. These 3 conditions made basic archery a 2-star skill. In just 1 day, he had managed to upgrade a skill from nothing to 2 stars. This was something that Wu Wei had never dared to imagine in the past. It must be known that in order to reach the level of his other 2-star skill Yellow Turban Iron Bull Stance, Wu Wei had spent more than a month. The total amount of money he had spent on this skill was close to 200 contribution points. Compared to the Yellow Turban Iron Bull Stance, the basic archery skill really saved Wu Wei a lot of trouble. More importantly, such a worry-free skill was very strong. Now, Wu Wei, whose basic archery had reached 2-star, was no longer inferior to the archer in terms of technique. At first, the arrow man had not come back to his senses. However, when he saw how easily Wu Wei used the 3 consecutive shot skill that he was still not very familiar with, he suddenly realized that Wu Wei, who had needed him to teach him more than 10 hours ago, had completely surpassed him in less than a day. This kind of blow, those who didn't personally experience it would really not understand. In short, when he saw the arrow man, he shut himself up on the spot and squatted in the corner to draw circles. Chapter 87 to 87 Gator with King Potential. 87 Gator with King Potential. In the blink of an eye, Wu Wei had led the 8,566 team to the crocodile swamp for 3 days, and they had also used the same method to farm for 3 days. All the monsters in the swamp, except for the Gator King, had been killed by Wu Wei and the others 3 times. It was also thanks to the taunting loudspeaker that Wu Wei learned for the first time that there were so many monsters in the crocodile swamp. In the past 3 days, at least 2,000 to 3,000 rune monsters had died in their hands. Among them, there were more than 300 elite crocodiles. With such a large number of players, in addition to the experience bonus effect of the taunting horn, the level of 8566's party skyrocketed. In 3 days, they had grown from level 11 to level 15. On Wu Wei's side, Little Elf had reached level 18, while he and Ah Huang had reached level 17. They were not far from level 18. Wu Wei and Little Wisp's level UPS were not much. Wu Wei had gained 0.2 attribute points after 2 levels, but it was better than nothing. The Little Elf had gained 0.8, but its combat power was basically 0, so it was hard to tell what the difference was. However, Ah Huang was different. It had an additional 1.2 attribute points, allowing its strength to reach 7.1 and physique to reach 7.2. Taking into account the equipment bonus, Ah Huang's strength could reach 9.1, which was a rather terrifying number. It could be compared to Wu Wei in his Reiki State Yellow Turban Iron Bull stance. It could be said that his combat strength had greatly improved. However, Ah Huang didn't have any chance to kill anyone. After all, Wu Wei had to farm the monsters to increase his skill proficiency. In the past 3 days, apart from gaining 2 levels, Wu Wei had also gained 2 skills. The first was his archery skills. In these 3 days, Wu Wei had used more than 10,000 arrows. He had spent dozens of contribution points just to buy the arrows. The results of such a large amount of training and energy consumption were not bad. Wu Wei's basic archery had reached 2 stars on the first day, and on the 3rd day, it was still 2 stars. However, although they were both 2-star, their proficiency was much lower. On the first day, he was a 2-star 1/10,000. Now, he was a 2-star 9871/10,000. He was not far from 3-star. Next was the maze formation. Over the past 3 days, Wu Wei had been continuously activating the maze formation and had gained a lot of skills. Now, the skills proficiency had reached 93/100. It could be said that both his archery skills and the lost formation had reached the critical point of upgrading. At the same time, there was something on Wu Wei's side that had also reached its critical point. This thing was the taunting horn. After all, he had been relying on it to level up in the past 3 days. It had been used 16 times in 3 days, and he only had 3 chances left. Once these 3 chances were used, this thing would be destroyed. If Wu Wei and the others wanted to stand on the high platform and kill the monsters like they were doing now, it would not be so easy. Sigh, I really hope that this thing can be used for an unlimited number of times. Wu Wei was very regretful, and he let out a long sigh greedily. However, it's still okay. After using it a few more times, I should be able to level up basic archery, maze formation, and my own level. As long as we can reach level 18, Ah Huang and I will immediately be able to change from a bird gun to a cannon gun. At that time, we will be able to defeat the Gator King. Thinking of this, Wu Wei was still a little excited. He immediately patted Ah Huang. Go on, the gator in the depths should be about to respawn. You should use your last few chances. After some thought, Wu Wei added, you can use it however you like. Having played it more than a dozen times in the past 3 days, Huang was no longer so excited about it. When it heard this, it suddenly became excited. "Brother Wu, are you serious? Are you really letting me use it however I like?" "Yes, I'm serious. Use it however you like." Of course, Wu Wei knew how dangerous it was to say such words to this fellow. He also knew what this fellow would do after getting his promise. However, Wu Wei did not care. Not to mention, no matter how much Goldie tried, it would not be able to lure the Gator King out. Even if Huang had lured the Gator King out, Wu Wei would not be afraid. The little fairy hadn't been sitting around and watching the show for the past 3 days. The area covered by the lost formation had been reduced to stone by the little fairy. If the Gator King could really be lured out, Wu Wei would be overjoyed. Wu Wei hadn't been farming it for the past few days, not because he couldn't beat it, but because it had the geographical advantage. In the situation where he had lost his geographical advantage and was trapped in the lost formation, Wu Wei felt that it would be easy for him to take down the Gator King. Therefore, Wu Wei was actually looking forward to the Crocodile King being lured over. As for the Blondie, under Wu Wei's anticipation, he began to make his move. Blondie held the taunting horn and looked at the weak archer with a smug and flashy look. He left the camp, but he didn't directly go in the direction of Gator King. Instead, he first blew at the periphery of the swamp of alligators, then ran to the depths of the swamp of alligators and blew at it. With 2 blows and 1 blow, the crocodile swamp, which had just calmed down, began to boil again. The crocodiles in the depths and the periphery swarmed toward the yellow-haired man. In the past, Blondie would have turned around and run, but after 3 days, Blondie's strength had increased and he had become bolder. Not only did he not turn around and run, but he also went straight to the Gator King's territory. As soon as he arrived at the Gator King's territory, Blondie immediately activated his second source, Spirit Leopard Body, and his body instantly turned into a golden leopard. After transforming into a leopard, he ignored the crocodiles that surrounded him from behind and began to wander around the Gator King's territory. His actions were no different from dancing on a steel wire on a cliff. However, this guy wasn't afraid at all. He wandered around and sniffed as if he was exploring something. Suddenly, the Blondie stopped in his tracks. As if he had noticed something, he took out the taunting loudspeaker and blew it into the Gator King's territory again. With this blow, Blondie used up his last chance to use the taunting loudspeaker. After he was done, he turned around and looked at the platform. Even though he didn't see his face, Wu Wei could still see the expression on his face. He must be as excited as 8566 and the others beside him. As Wu Wei shook his head, his gaze was fixed in the direction of the Gator King's territory. He was looking forward to the Gator King coming out, but the Gator King didn't. However, although the Gator King didn't come out, a group of crocodiles came out. Wu Wei took a closer look and realized that all the crocodiles that had run out were elite-level crocodiles. A conservative estimate was that there were at least 50 to 60 of them. Wu Wei was stunned. Why are there so many elite crocodiles in the Gator King's territory? Could it be the Gator King's little brother? However, Wu Wei soon felt that something was amiss. No, this shouldn't be the Gator King's underling. Wu Wei had been here for more than half a month and knew that the Gator King was a veteran otaku fish. As long as it was not deep in its territory, it would not even bring it out. With its personality, it should not have kept so many little brothers. More importantly, Wu Wei had already seen a familiar figure. It was a crocodile that he had seen once before. It was the crocodile that he had seen beside the wooden treasure chest when he first entered the depths of the crocodile swamp. Wu Wei could recognize it because its head was bigger than other crocodiles. As for this crocodile, Wu Wei was far away and didn't see it clearly. He thought it was just an elite crocodile. However, when he saw it again today, Wu Wei could vaguely sense that it was not as simple as it seemed. Therefore, he squinted his eyes and saw the attributes of the crocodile. Rune monster, swamp crocodile with king's potential. Quality, exquisite grade plus. Level, 19. Strength, 4, Constitution, 4, Spirit agility, 4. Skills mastered, Earth spike, 2 stars, Earth evasion, gravity technique, camouflage. King's potential, swamp crocodile version, able to obtain the loyalty and assistance of swamp crocodiles. Looking at this attribute, Wu Wei suddenly understood everything. I was wondering why I was suddenly surrounded the last time I went in. It turns out that it was this guy who was behind all this. Wu Wei had a hard time in that battle, and all of his equipment had been destroyed. He was even bitten a few times and almost died inside. Recalling the hatred from that battle, Wu Wei was instantly enraged. Of course, Wu Wei was not a petty person. It was impossible for him to hold a grudge. Therefore, he picked up the crocodile tooth bow, drew the bow, and shot it out. Chapter 88-88 King Potential. 88 King Potential. In the crocodile swamp, Wu Wei drew his bow and shot an arrow. With his 2-star basic archery and the 1-point accuracy from the crocodile fang bow in his hand, Wu Wei's archery could be said to be accurate and ruthless. With a plop, an elite-level crocodile was shot through the eye and died on the spot. However, the elite-grade crocodile that Wu Wei had killed was not the big-headed crocodile. In fact, Wu Wei did not choose to attack the big-headed crocodile at this time. On the one hand, it was quite far away. On the other hand, there were 50 to 60 high-quality crocodiles surrounding the big-headed crocodile. It would not be easy to kill it from such a distance under the protection of so many crocodiles. However, Wu Wei wasn't in a hurry. As long as the blondie could reach the high platform, the big-headed crocodile would come over sooner or later to deliver the head. Therefore, what Wu Wei had to do now was to ensure that the blondie could return to the high platform. Wu Wei's arrow had actually killed a high-quality crocodile that was trying to attack the yellow-haired creature. The crocodile had been hiding at Blondie's feet, and Blondie had not noticed it at all. If it had not been for Wu Wei's arrow, Blondie's would have been bitten, and not even his bones would have been left. Blondie was obviously aware of this as well. This made him even more excited. He enjoyed the feeling of being so close to death, which made his heart beat faster and faster. At this moment, he even wanted to go back and have another wave. But in the next second, the blondie suddenly felt all the pores on his body shrink, and his hair stood on end. It was a death threat. And this time, the threat of death did not come from the crocodiles, but from Wu Wei. Wu Wei directly aimed at him. The meaning was obvious. You're looking for excitement, but if you can't do your job well, I'll make you very excited. Under the threat of Wu Wei's bow and arrows, Blondie immediately became obedient. He held the taunting loudspeaker in his hand and returned to the lost ground without any danger under Wu Wei's cover. As the yellow-haired thug returned, the crocodile behind him also followed. This time, Goldie had attracted the elite alligators who were hiding in the Gator King's territory under the lead of the big-headed crocodile. This wave was the largest number of crocodiles that Wu Wei had brought over the past 3 days. By a conservative estimate, there were at least 800 of them. This number of crocodiles had a huge impact on the maze formation. Even though the formation was not destroyed, the spirit talismans were used up very quickly. Originally, the array would only consume about 20 spiritual talismans in an hour. At this moment, the maze formation had used up 20 spiritual talismans. Fortunately, Wu Wei had placed 100 spiritual talismans on each pillar in advance, and 1,000 spiritual talismans on the main pillar on the high platform. He had a total of 4,500 talismans, which was equivalent to 45 contribution points. He should be able to last until the end of this battle. Of course, as he used up a large number of talismans, the proficiency level of the maze formation also rose rapidly. In less than a minute, He had gained 2 points. It seemed that there was hope for him to level up the maze formation before the battle ended. However, Wu Wei had no intention of wasting time to level up, mainly because he had used up too many spirit talismans. Wu Wei didn't have enough spirit talismans on hand. If he continued to delay, he would run out of spirit talismans. At that time, even if the maze array was upgraded, it would be useless. Beat him up, beat him up. Wu Wei ordered. Under Wu Wei's orders, everyone on their side, except for Wisp, attacked. Wu Wei, the archer, and Zhou Tian were attacking from afar. Blondie, the big guy, and Ah Huang, who had just returned to the high platform, walked down the high platform and began to harvest wildly with the help of the lost array. In the past 3 days, the crocodiles that entered the maze were no different from lambs waiting to be slaughtered. If he lost his way after entering, he would only be passively beaten. Today was no different. The crocodiles that had charged into the maze formation were still unable to tell north from south, east from west. They could only run around randomly, becoming living targets for Wu Wei and the others. The yellow-haired big guy could also use the geographical advantage of the lost formation to take care of the crocodiles one by one. As for Ah Huang, he didn't need any geographical advantage at all. With the support of his equipment, his strength of 9.2 made him invincible. Under Wu Wei's group's harvest, the crocodiles that entered the lost array began to descend rapidly. At this rate, Wu Wei and the others would be able to kill this wave of gators in an hour or two. Of course, this was on the premise that the crocodile really had no ability to resist. Although the crocodiles had not resisted in the past 3 days, it seemed that they did today. The main problem was the big-headed crocodile. The gator's 8 points of spirit showed its worth. Although the maze formation was powerful, it was not invincible. With Wu Wei's current level, as long as his spirit reached 10 points, he would be able to ignore the effects of the lost formation. When one's spiritual power exceeded 5 points, the effects would be reduced bit by bit. The big-headed crocodile's spirit had reached 8 points. Although it was attracted by the taunting loudspeaker and had a certain confusion effect, its spirit was not suppressed. Therefore, it instinctively sensed that something was wrong with the formation. To be more precise, it had discovered the stone pillar. They also began to gather the crocodiles around them to attack the stone pillar. Of course, the stone pillar was not that easy to attack. As a note of the formation, the confusion effect around it was extremely strong. People with a mental power of less than 5 would not be able to see it at all, and would even subconsciously avoid it. However, because of the presence of the big-headed alligators, dozens of alligators attacked a specific location together. Although they had not succeeded for the time being, it was only a matter of time before they hit. Wu Wei, who was on the high platform, wasn't dead either. He had noticed the abnormality of the situation almost immediately and gave an order. "We can't let it destroy the maze. Ah Huang, kill that big-headed crocodile for me." At the same time, Wu Wei aimed an arrow at the stone pillar. Whenever a crocodile tried to approach the stone pillar, Wu Wei would draw his bow and shoot an arrow. Under Wu Wei's tight defense, no crocodiles had touched the stone pillar yet. At the same time, Ah Huang, who had received Wu Wei's order, immediately activated the yellow turban iron bull stance and charged over. At this time, even though the yellow turban iron bull stance was not 2-star, with his current attributes, a 1-star yellow turban iron bull stance was already very terrifying. His strength immediately rose to 12 points, 4 points higher than the Gator King. With terrifying absolute power and the geographical advantage of the lost formation, Ah Huang was like a hot knife through butter and soon arrived at the big-headed crocodile's side. However, just as Ah Huang came to the big-headed crocodile's side and was about to catch it, Wu Wei, who was standing on the high platform, noticed that the big-headed crocodile trembled. Immediately after, the big-headed crocodile and the dozens of crocodiles around it emitted an earthy yellow light. In the light, the shadow of a crown appeared on the Gator King's head. With the appearance of this phantom, Wu Wei was surprised to find that the crocodile's attributes had undergone a shocking change. His strength, constitution, and agility, which were originally 4 points, had all soared to 6 points. His 8 points of spirit had even reached 12 points. 12 points of spirit instantly allowed it to break free from the maze formation's restraints. At the same time, it even broke free from the taunting loudspeaker's restraint, and the big-headed crocodile's eyes instantly became clear. It seemed to have realized what kind of situation it was in an instant, and it swung its tail directly at the stone pillar not far away. Crack! The stone pillar shattered. The effect of Wu Wei's lost array instantly decreased by 30%. The big-headed crocodile seized the opportunity and made a hoarse sound, trying to gather its little brothers to escape the lost array with it. However, it was disappointed. Although it had broken a stone pillar of Wu Wei's maze formation, it was still operating, and his little brother still couldn't tell the direction. Realizing this, the big-headed crocodile's eyes fell on the stone pillars in the middle of the maze formation. At the same time, Wu Wei snorted coldly. "Ah Huang, kill it. Don't let it continue to destroy the maze formation." Chapter 89-89 Pale Blue Light Dots. 89 Pale Blue Light Dots. Boom. In fact, Wu Wei didn't even need to give the order. Ah Huang was already on the move. As soon as he finished speaking, Ah Huang swung a crocodile at the big-headed crocodile. The heavy blow caused the crocodile's skin to split open. As for the big-headed crocodile, its 6 agility gave it extremely high dexterity, allowing it to avoid Ah Huang's attack before it could land. But Ah Huang was not its only opponent. Just as he dodged Ah Huang's attack, Wu Wei and the archer's arrows were already coming. One shot at the back of the big-headed crocodile, while the other shot at its mouth. The 2 arrows hit the crocodile, but it seemed that the crocodile's defense had been strengthened. Moreover, the arrows did not hit its vital parts, so it was not seriously injured. The 2 consecutive arrows made the crocodile realize its current situation. This made the big-headed crocodile give up on the idea of destroying the maze formation. It immediately ran away. Upon seeing this, Wu Wei was dumbfounded. At the same time, he sighed. No wonder this gator has the potential to be a king. He's so shameless as to sell out his teammate when the situation isn't good. But Wu Wei's eyes narrowed. He knocked an arrow on his bow and aimed at the escaping crocodile. "How can I let you run away like this?" As he spoke, Wu Wei performed a 4-shot combo for the archer beside him. It was not the single-shot version, but a 2-shot 4-shot combo. This scene almost made the arrow man, who had just gotten out of his depression, shut himself in again. The so-called 4-shot combo wasn't as simple as just shooting 4 times in a row. There were strict requirements for this. There were requirements for the time of continuous shooting, the accuracy of shooting, and the strength of shooting. And it was extremely abnormal. Even he, who had been an archer for more than a year, had only managed to shoot 3 arrows in a row in the past few days under Wu Wei's stimulation. Wu Wei only used 3 days to achieve 4 consecutive shots from nothing, even 2 arrows at the same time. This made the arrow man suspect that he had spent all his training on dogs. He even suspected that Wu Wei had cheated. Of course, as he doubted his life, he also felt a little pity for Wu Wei. They felt that he had chosen the wrong profession. With the talent he had shown, if he had chosen the Divine Talisman Archer instead of the Divine Talisman Summoner, then his current strength would probably be. Thinking of this, the arrow man couldn't help but look at the lost formation, at Ah Huang, who was showing off its might, and the little fairy, who was gnawing on a heart, beside Wu Wei. The arrow man instantly had no more thoughts. I hate geniuses. The arrow man was autistic, and the big-headed crocodile was also autistic. Wu Wei completed 4 consecutive shots in 3 seconds, shooting 8 arrows in one breath. Not all of them were aimed at the crocodile, but they did not allow it any room to react. The crocodile had no choice but to take two of Wu Wei's arrows head on. Fortunately, Wu Wei's arrows were not fatal to the crocodile. In addition, it dodged well, so even though it was shot in the back, it still managed to escape the disaster. Having dodged the attack, the crocodile did not wait for Wu Wei to continue shooting. The crown on its head was immediately shattered. At the same time the crown shattered, the earth yellow light scattered on the ground, and the crocodiles around it were affected by it. The next second, something that Wu Wei did not expect happened. The hundreds of crocodiles around the big-headed crocodile went crazy. The big-headed crocodile found an opportunity to escape from the maze under the cover of the other crocodiles. There's still such means. Wu Wei sighed and squinted his eyes at the big-headed crocodile. The arrows in his hands were shot out one by one. Wu Wei's arrows were accurate and ruthless. However, no matter how accurate and ruthless it was, it could not penetrate the layers of crocodiles and hit the big-headed crocodile. However, Wu Wei's movements did not stop as he continued to fire arrows. His eyes were fixed on the ground, predicting where the big-headed crocodile could appear. At this moment, Wu Wei seemed to have entered the state of mind. The arrow in his hand seemed to have a life of its own, and the proficiency of basic archery was also skyrocketing. 9912/10000, 9921/10000, 9943/10000, 9967/10000. As his proficiency rose, Wu Wei's condition improved. Finally, Wu Wei's shooting stopped and he closed his eyes. However, at the same time he closed his eyes, Wu Wei drew his bow and nocked an arrow. After taking a deep breath, Wu Wei released the bowstring in his hand without even opening his eyes. The moment the bowstring was released, a quarter of the invisible spiritual energy in Wu Wei's body disappeared, and the arrow was shot out with a quarter of Wu Wei's spiritual energy. Spiritual energy arrows! Someone exclaimed. At the same time, a p sound was heard. The big-headed crocodile, which had used all its strength to reach the edge of the maze formation with great difficulty, had its head pierced through by the arrow the moment it stretched its head out. At the same time, a golden finger notification appeared before Wu Wei's eyes. Your skill basic archery's proficiency level has been increased. Current level, 3 stars, max level, due to the lack of conditions, cannot be used to continue upgrading. Wu Wei didn't seem to be too surprised by this golden finger notification. In fact, when basic archery was slowly approaching 3 stars, Wu Wei could vaguely feel that there was a limit to it. Of course, this limit could be broken. If Wu Wei was a god talisman archer, he would be able to break through the limits of basic archery. However, he was not. He was a divine talisman summoner, so 3 stars was the limit of basic archery. That was why the big-headed crocodile was able to escape from his arrow. That's right, the crocodile that had a hole in its head didn't die and ran away. It was mainly because the crocodile's head was stronger than the average crocodile's, and Wu Wei's arrow had only pierced through the edge of the crocodile's head, so it might not have hurt its brain, so it still ran away. Seeing this, the arrow man could not help but show a regretful expression. He was not feeling sorry for the fact that if Wu Wei was a divine talisman archer, that arrow from Wu Wei would have easily taken the big-headed crocodile's life. Instead, he was a god-tier archer who could never become the strongest because of his profession. Wu Wei seemed to have heard the archer's sigh. He turned around and patted his shoulder. Don't worry, this fish won't be able to escape. Almost at the same time as Wu Wei's words, a crocodile flew out of the maze formation like a cannonball and smashed into the big-headed crocodile, which had been severely injured and could not react in time. Immediately after, Ah Huang charged out and went straight for the big-headed crocodile. Seeing that the crocodile's spine had been broken and it couldn't move, Wu Wei smiled. The big-headed crocodile suddenly disappeared. Seeing this, Wu Wei was stunned for a moment before he suddenly reacted. Earth escape. When he recognized the skill, Wu Wei couldn't help but turn to look at the little elf beside him, who was still gnawing on a heart. Wu Wei looked at the silly little fellow and then at the big-headed crocodile that had disappeared. He had mixed feelings. He did not expect that he would actually find out how heaven-defying the skills of his own summoned beast were from other rune monsters. He was so injured, yet he could escape by using the earth escape technique. On the other hand, the one in his house was already 1 star in earth escape, but it didn't know how to use it every time it was chased. It even flapped its wings and ran away, making Wu Wei think that earth escape was just for show. The more he thought about it, the angrier Wu Wei became. He snatched the heart from the fairy's mouth and said, "Why are you still standing there? Go in the direction of the Gator King's territory. Hurry up, don't let it escape." Although the big-headed crocodile was only a fine grade, it was definitely an elite among the elite. Wu Wei did not want to miss out on such a small boss. Under Wu Wei's command, the little fairy flapped her little wings and chased after them with a huang. Wu Wei, on the other hand, turned around and aimed his bow and arrows at the crocodiles in the lost formation. He began a frenzied slaughter. 10 minutes later, the little fairy and a huang returned. However, Wu Wei's eyes couldn't help but narrow when he saw the little fairy and a huang. Because he found that the goblin leather armor on Yellow's body and the fang knife in his hand, which had just been changed not long ago, were all gone. Upon seeing this, Wu Wei did not even need to ask to know what had happened. "That Gator King has made a move." The little fairy and a huang nodded. "What about the big-headed crocodile?" "He ran away." This time, the little fairy and a huang shook their heads. Then, a huang took out a light blue and 2 green dots of light. Chapter 90-90 Harvest. 90 Harvest. Seeing the light blue spot of light held out by a huang, Wu Wei's complexion looked a little better. But the light in Wu Wei's eyes that wanted to kill the Crocodile King was still there. Of course, Wu Wei didn't go right away, let alone said harsh words, but after putting away the light blue light spot, he said lightly, "Shoot monsters, kill all the monsters in front of you. Get rid of them." With that said, Wu Wei brought the little elf and a huang to get busy. But what Wu Wei was busy with immediately was not killing. Instead, he brought the little elf down to the maze formation, and went there to restore the stone pillar that was destroyed by the big-headed crocodile. At the same time, I visited all the stone pillars again and made some fine-tuning. And when Wu Wei finished fine-tuning all the stone pillars, the faint fog that existed in the maze formation disappeared, and everything seemed to be clear before his eyes. But in front of Wu Wei's eyes, there was a golden finger reminder. "You have mastered Talisman Formation. Maze Formation proficiency level has increased, the current level is 1 star. At the same time, in terms of attributes, the attributes of the 1-star Lost Array also changed. Lost Array, 1 star, 1/1000, low-level array. Maze formation can affect the 5 senses of existence within the range of the array, making it difficult to find the correct direction in a trance, and at the same time can make people who enter the formation existence hallucinates. If the spirit exceeds 15 points, it can be exempted from the influence of the formation. If the spirit exceeds 10 points, the influence of the formation can be reduced. P.S. Consumption increased by 50% compared to the original. The effect of 1-star maze formation has been strengthened a lot. At this moment, let alone entering a big-headed crocodile, even if entering a group of big-headed crocodiles, Wu Wei is not afraid at all. At present, the highest crocodile spirit in the maze formation does not exceed 5 points. The previous maze formation was able to make them unable to find the north, but now that they have 1 star, they don't even know how they died. Wu Wei, who was curious about the effect of the 1-star maze formation, went straight to it, causing the crocodiles in the maze formation to hallucinate, making them look at other crocodiles as mocking horns. In this hand, the consumption of talismans in the maze formation increased at an extremely high speed, and 200 talismans were consumed in 1 minute. But at the same time, the death rate of the crocodiles in the Lost Formation also increased sharply. The crocodiles in the Maze Formation began to kill each other. The entire Maze Formation was full of death rolls. Seeing the crocodiles turning one by one and tearing the target to pieces, Wu Wei knew for the first time how brutal the death roll skill is. In just 1 minute of cannibalism, the number of crocodiles dropped by at least 1/10. At this speed, the group of crocodiles might die in a short time. But Wu Wei did not continue like this. On the one hand, he felt sorry for the talisman, and on the other hand, he found that the experience he could gain from such a dead crocodile was greatly reduced, so he stopped. But even if they stopped and used conventional means to kill, this group of crocodiles couldn't resist for long. In just half an hour, this group of crocodiles was harvested by Wu Wei. And after the crocodiles were harvested, a golden finger reminder appeared in front of Wu Wei's eyes. Your first source Yellow Turban Warrior has been upgraded. Its current level is 18. Its strength has increased by 0.3 and its constitution has increased by 0.3. Your level has increased, the current level is 18, and your strength has increased by 0.1. Looking at these two system prompts and feeling the light of the upgrade on his body, Wu Wei's eyes narrowed. At level 18, you can switch from shotgun to cannon. Some fish should be killed too. However, not now, there are more important things to do now. Pack up your trails, we'll go back to the city and split the earnings. Wu Wei raised his arms and shouted, and the 8,566 team beside him cheered. Afterwards, they began to pack up the spoils. Well, picking up the loot was more troublesome than fighting. It took Wu Wei and the others just over an hour for the battle, and it took Wu Wei and the others more than 3 hours to clean up the loot. This is mainly because of Wu Wei's frugality. He not only asked Team 8,566 to pick up all the light spots, but also collected all the remaining crocodiles that hadn't been refreshed yet. He even ran to the edge of the Crocodile King's territory and collected the heart of that big crocodile. After struggling for 3 hours, they returned to Yuehua City. After returning to Yuehua City, Wu Wei was preparing to take the 8,566 team to the logistics department too. It's just time to put the things down, and the 8,560 SIXS are about to run away one by one. The yellow-haired Arrow Man and the others are melee professionals, and they run relatively fast. Zhou Tian was even more miserable. He was a mage profession and his movements are slow. When Wu Wei saw that Blondie and the others were about to run away, he became alert and grabbed Zhou Tian. What's wrong? Are you going to run? Seeing that Zhou Tian couldn't run away, he could only tell Wu Wei, well, brother Wu, we mainly think that although we provided props in this wave, we also directly upgraded from level 11 to level 16, which is already a big profit. Now, it's not appropriate to divide money or anything. Besides, brother Wu is about to reach level 20. When you reach level 20, you must burn a third source. The source of your talisman summoners is more expensive, and brother Wu definitely won't consider those below superior level. So we need a lot of money. We don't need the money in a hurry right now, so let's wait until we really need it later, and then hug your thigh. What Zhou Tian said was very good, and Wu Wei was very moved. But in the next second, Wu Wei's moonlight token lit up. At the same time, an announcement sounded in the lounge they were in. Student Wu Wei, you were reported anonymously. The reason for the report was an attempt to distribute spoils in violation of regulations. Please reach a reasonable loot distribution agreement with your teammates as soon as possible, otherwise Bright Moon Tower will intervene. Hearing this broadcast, Wu Wei's face turned dark immediately. He didn't even need to guess, it must be the work of that bastard, Blondie. No, in the next second, the door was pushed open, and Blondie walked in with a proud face. How? I'll just say my trick works, right? If he dares to split money from us, We'll really report him ah. Before Blondie finished speaking, he was pulled in and beaten up. After the fight, Wu Wei threw some light spots at them all get out. Afterwards, Wu Wei directly kicked the 4 of them out. The 4 people who were kicked out looked at the dots in their hands and scratched their heads. They seemed to want to send them back, but at last glance, these dots were about 1/5 of the total income. Looking at Wu Wei's closed door again, they hesitated for a while, so they couldn't really report Wu Wei, right? So it was finally accepted. On Wu Wei's side, after forcibly distributing the loot, they began to count their total income for more than 3 days this time, close to 4 days. Wu Wei's income from this wave was really not small. In terms of collection, Wu Wei only collected hearts. A total of 127 high-quality crocodile hearts were collected. According to the purchase price of the logistics department, 127 high-quality hearts can probably have a contribution of 254. However, Wu Wei didn't intend to sell all of them. The main reason was that the elves can still eat them. Although the elves had already eaten more than 20 hearts, the data did not stop after exceeding 20 hearts. It had already reached 49/20, and this statistic can continue to rise. If it could continue, then Wu Wei has no intention of stopping. He really wanted to see where the elf's limit was. In addition to the income from collection, Wu Wei's biggest income was of course the light point income. In this wave, Wu Wei obtained a total of 1 light blue light spot. There are 247 green light spots and 578 white light spots. This was still the case after giving a large part to Team 8566. This number was already so large that Wu Wei felt that he couldn't finish it. So Wu Wei classified the light spots when he came up. Divide all the light spots according to the material light spots, magic weapon talisman light spots, rune light spots, and prop light spots. As far as the materials are concerned, the ones left behind by the heart, and other high-quality goods, whether they are high quality or not, Wu Wei swept them all together and prepared to sell them later. This part was the most. The high-quality and high-quality products added up to more than 700, and almost 90% of them were materials. In addition to material blips, the most common ones were rune blips. But most of them are soil armor talismans, which are of no use to Wu Wei and he doesn't plan to keep them. He was looking forward to the camouflage talisman, but it was a pity that they didn't come out. Not only did the camouflage talisman not come out, but there were not many divine weapon talismans, and the quality was not that good. Wu Wei was prepared for this situation. In fact, he didn't expect to be able to make a fortune by relying on more than 200 light spots, and get a complete set of magic weapon talismans. Because he knew very well that the behavior of repeatedly brushing a map with props like theirs would greatly reduce the explosion rate and the quality of the product in that area. It was already enough to be able to produce so many light spots. It was a very good income. Wu Wei tossed about for more than 2 hours. In the end, there were only a few light spots in his hands that he could really see, and Wu Wei opened them one by one. Part 4 of the series ends here. If you enjoyed it, please give us a like and subscribe so we can be motivated to make even better videos in the future.